Ah, there's me. Bell Rock. Outside Phoenix, Sedona, and Hole in a Rock in Phoenix. Qapla all. It is Wednesday, September 11th, 2019. 18 years ago. Certainly the biggest day in history of my life. I mean, other than me being born, but I mean, world history, American history. And thank you so much, Joseph, for donating 2 USD. Yes, worth 2 USD, 30% YouTube's take. Thank you, Joseph. The euro is, in fact, stronger than the dollar, probably for a lot of reasons that can be traced back to 9/11. I'll get to the comments in a second, but certainly it is a day that changed my life. It's a day that changed all our lives, whether we know it or not. A baby born today, a baby born on 9/11 is 18 years old today for all legal purposes and adult. Scary. It is a scary time because so many people born after 9/11 or even that were just kids when they were 9/11. I don't know in your experiences, but in my experiences, so many simply don't believe it happened the way we all know it happened. And there's older people who also subscribe to 9/11 truther, in my opinion, bull crap. But yeah, it's not only the young, but in my experience, it's mostly those who are too young to live and experience it as an adult. And today, you know, it's going to be a little different. Usually, the streams are more fun and entertaining, and we'll see if we can get to that. But I actually typed out a small agenda just so I kind of remember what it is I want to talk about. I'll do some chats, and then I was going to start with my 9/11 story, just taking you through my day. It actually started the night before. I was in Manhattan. I was looking at the World Trade Center just several hours before it all happened. And I'll go through just all the weird things, all the coincidences, how 9/11 affected Star Trek, because it absolutely did. It changed. I promise you, if 9/11 hadn't happened, we would have had 7 seasons of Enterprise. And I'll tell you why. It changed TV, it changed movies, it changed policies, it changed who got elected after that. It changed everything. The whole world changed. So, yeah. I'm going to read the comments. And guys, today, please use @BirdoPray5 if you want me to read your comment, because I'm going to be doing more talking, more on-point talking than usual. Joseph Patrick, and I told people at first I was starting at 4, but when Anti-Tricker ended up going to 4 o'clock himself, I did say towards the end it's going to be closer to 4:30, although Anti-Tricker didn't get that, and of course told everybody to head over to my channel, which I thank him for doing, but I was not ready to go on. I was getting stuff still ready, because I was watching his chat, his show. Joseph Patrick at 404 said he was here, and he was here before Thomas Potts' the Pot Spot. DJ Odyssey says, hey, I don't know if I'll be back before you are done, but gave my like already. Thank you so much, DJ. And I told everybody to be ready in a few minutes. And Hector said bird minutes, and he was kind of right. Joseph Patrick says bird has Italian roots. They do not take time that precise. My German genes take it as an offense. Lol. Well, Joseph, I take time very, very precisely. And had I given a precise starting time, you betcha I would have started at it. However, the fact that I take time so precisely is the reason why I don't give precise starting times, because I know I cannot, there are so many variables before I go live. I can't commit to a specific, even a 5-minute window. So I give, like a day like today, I gave plus minus 15 minutes. Most of the time I give plus minus 30 minutes because that's the best I can reasonably do. And I would hate to say, somebody else might say, oh yes, I'll be on at 4:15. And if they get on at 4:04 or 4:26, they don't care. To me, if I told you I'd be on at 4:15 and I started at 4:06, I'd feel really bad because I'd feel like, oh my God, I made you miss part of the show. Or if I made you wait 15 minutes, I'd feel really bad. So I don't want that on my conscience. And that's why I just don't give precise times. But when I do give a precise time, I stick to it. I mean, I would get to places early. You gave me a time, I would be there, early, just to be sure I was there on time, which was good for job interviews, not so good in social situations. I'll tell you that. I had a good friend at work who was Jamaican, and he invited, most of his friends were also Jamaican, but he invited a couple people from work, me and another woman, and it was his sons or daughters, I forget. It was his first kids. It was a party, what's that called? Baptism party. And it wasn't the baptism, this was a party afterwards. And he put on the invitation, it started at 12 noon or something like that. Maybe it was 11 a.m. even, at this restaurant in the Bronx. So I head up there at like 11:48, which, I sat in the car until like 11:55. I got out, I go into the restaurant. There is nobody there. There's nobody. There's not even a bartender behind the bar. Like the restaurant door was open. The place is empty. So I look around, I sit down, like 5 minutes later, the other white woman that he invited came in. Like, you got the same? Yeah, I got the invitation. It says this time. We're looking. We just hang out. About 20 minutes later, one of his family members comes in to drop off stuff, and he looks at us. He's like, "Are you, so-and-so and so-and-so?" I said, "Yes." And he's like, "Oh," he's like, "Why are you here?" I was like, "Because the invitation says noon." And he's like, "Oh man, no, that's island time. We got to tell them noon, otherwise nobody be here till 9 o'clock. Like, you should come back in like 3 hours." I was like, "What? Come back?" I was like, "I don't live near here." He's like, "Wait, I'll call him." So he calls up and he's like, "Yo, your friends are here." And so he came out, he said hello, and, gave him the gift. And he said, he apologized. He's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just cultural, we got to say that time. We never expected anybody to actually show up at that time." So it was a little cultural misunderstanding. And he said, "If you guys want to wait or come back," I was like, "Thank you so much. I appreciate it. But, I had plans. I wasn't expecting on being there till, 3 hours, maybe 3 hours tops, not for it to start in 3 hours." So I think we both said thank you and gave him presents and wished him luck. And, like an hour after we got there, we ended up leaving because there was still nobody there. He made a special trip down just to see us. So yes, I'm more precise. Certainly closer to German time than island time. And one of the first, in fact, it was Conversational Klingon CD. The only CD I had in my car, in my Jeep. back in the day before I listened to any type of music. And one of the things on conversational Klingon was a lesson on telling time. And it says Klingons are always precise, but not particularly accurate. Okay? They will never say anything like, I'll be there 7:15-ish. Okay? Or around 7:30. That's not, no, those words don't even exist in Klingon. You'll say, I'll be there at 7:30. But if you show up at 7:55, that's just the way things are. So Klingons, for those who don't know, always, when they talk, always talk precisely. But they are not particularly accurate. Germans, okay, Germans talk accurate, talk precise, and tend to be very accurate. Which is always something I liked. Because, like I said, that's spam. It's spam. It says spam. It's better when it says spam. You know not to pick it up. Yeah, so Germans, I do know, have a tendency, a reputation for being both accurate and precise. Which I like, because I always try to be precise. Joseph says, on September 15th, the first Slavic news TV was supposed to start, but they started earlier on the 11th because of the tragedy. They were doing dry runs and basically went live on the spot. Well, that makes some sense. Wesley says, Bird of Prey, I just got done with 5 hours of yard work. Very cool, Wes. I know I'm skipping ahead here, but I'll go back and forth. Actor says no makeup. The fashion reporters qualified as a disaster. With no makeup, the fashion reporters qualified as a disaster. I don't know if that's true. Cinnabon says hi. Thomas Potts says hi. Actor says first, and Actor says damn. Oh, it was close. It was close. Shrownmore says, greetings, Birdo Prey 5, Mamo Prey 5, and fellow nerds. Greetings, Shrownmore. Multi-Gunman says, hey, Bird, how's it going, Will? Not too bad, though not particularly a day of celebration. Thomas Potts puts in a $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Thomas Potts. And says, never forget. We'll talk about that. Multi-Gunman says, screw you guys first. Shrownmore says, and greetings to Sassy, chaser of cats, eater of cookies, stalker of cardinals, defiler of cushions, and scourge of the squirrels. And she is asleep, and her eyes are closed. Her little beagle eyes are closed. Aw, she looks cute. Cuter than usual. Shrownmore says, atomic first. Well, that takes the only thing more than atomic first is infinite first. Mike Richards says, greetings from Columbus, Ohio. Greetings, Mike Richards. Multi-Gunman is saying he's still first. Carlo Albanese says, hey, Birdo Prey 5. Welcome, Carlo. Kronos says, Qapla, Qapla. Kronos. Josh Street says, breaking news. Kuroga has surrendered to the Vile Ones. What? What nonsense is this? The Vile Ones, after a short war, where the dictator of Kuroga was heard saying, son of a bitch, while the Vile Ones destroyed Kuroga's military. Okay, well that is super fake news. Kronos asks, how's everyone doing? Multi-Gunman says, F the terrorist cowards. Life with Matthew says, your stream didn't start immediately after Anti-Trigger's unsubbing. Well, I never intended to start immediately after Anti-Trigger's. I figured Anti-Trigger would be done by 3. Of course, Stan Admiral Saval, which I'm sure Anti-Trigger was quite thankful for, but Admiral Saval, for the second, I think, stream in a row, threw in $50 plus another $20 this day to get every super chat Anti-Trigger ever created played. And that takes it takes like 45 minutes. I mean, Jesus. So that added to it, though obviously Anti-Trigger can use the money, so I'm not saying it's bad, it's just, it adds. It was unexpected extra time. Surf Trictronics says, I flew into JFK in November 2001 to help with Topo Manhattan was still covered in a dust cloud. Yes. 9/11 was a Birdo Prey 5 job. No, Josh Street. Thomas Frost says Anti-Trekker still doesn't believe the Alamo happened. Aaron Matthews says notified here, remembering our fallen heroes. Thank you, Aaron Matthew. Surf Trictronics says please don't disgrace this day with 9/11 conspiracy talk. I'm not going to, although I might say that it's not true. You know, the conspiracy talk isn't true on 9/11. Kronos says, I went to Vegas after 9/11 just to piss off the terrorists. That's good, Kronos. That's good. The buffets rocked. Dan23 says, in England, they banned episodes of The Simpsons show with the Twin Towers, and they didn't show that episode for many, many years. Yes, that is the city of New York versus Homer Simpson, and I've got some stuff to say about it. It's in my agenda. The city of New York versus Homer Simpson. Also, and I'll talk about it now because I didn't put it in the agenda. But for those who don't remember, 18 years ago, we were getting the first new Spider-Man movie in a long, long time, and they had to change the movie artwork because they were going with a movie poster that had a spider web between the Twin Towers and a helicopter stuck in the spider web. And it was going to be the Spider-Man movie coming, whatever movie it was, I forget which. But it's like the first new Spider-Man in forever. And, yeah, they had changed, they pulled those down. I don't know if they ever got it out. They either just had come out and they pulled them down, or they were going to come out and they had to change it last minute to something different. But I totally remember people talking about that at the time. How the Spider-Man movie was their change. And, I mean, at the time, all these people talking about how and I'm glad that they didn't for the most part, but people were talking about, oh, we've got to remove the Twin Towers from all these movies and TV shows that they showed up in. Like, all of a sudden, if you just saw the Twin Towers, that was some type of offense. And that was obviously nonsense. I wasn't for it then. I'm not for it now. In fact, to be completely honest, I wanted them rebuilt. I wanted them rebuilt the same as they were, possibly taller. And with the only difference, build them in black for mourning and remembrance. But I wanted the two towers back. And long before he ran for president, Donald Trump was a big fan. He was trying to push the two-tower rebuild, but instead they went with that, and I'm sorry, but god-awful Freedom Tower design that isn't even the tallest building. You know, they thought it was going to be the tallest building, but that was bullcrap, because even when they were planning it, we knew there were other buildings being opened really soon that were going to be opened before it, and were going to be taller. And even with that stupid spire that they claimed was going to get it to 1,776 feet, it would still not count. And then they couldn't even finish the spire. But the building came, and that spire that they had hoped for got really, it's basically just an antenna. The spire, even Architect Weekly or whatever, the frickin' Architect magazine or association, they had to change their rules, because by current rules, what's on top of One World Trade Center now wouldn't technically count as part of the height of the structure. They had to change their rules so that it would count, so that they could get the building to be listed officially as 1,776 feet. Because it's not even close to 1,776 feet. But it's the tallest building in Manhattan, don't get me wrong. But it's not a world record holder by any means. And we lost 2 towers and we got 1 back, basically. Mark Andy says we almost had Westerns return to TV. Well, some channels, Westerns never ended. I mean, Dado Prey was watching Westerns right up until the end. Multi-Gunman says, Bird of Prey, hey Bird. I read that. Kronos says, Bird put me on a list. I'm scared. Yeah, well, Kronos, you had to be put on a list yesterday. Uncle Remus says, hi Bird of Prey. Welcome, Uncle Remus. I saw you asking about me on Anti-Trekker stream, but I don't know. I couldn't find what you were actually asking. I just saw people answering you. Aaron Matthews says, rocking the absolute perfect shirt for today, Bird. Thank you. Yeah, Mamo Prey suggests. I was like, yes, definitely. That's the one I'm going for. The tough old Bird shirt. Dan23 says, there's an episode of the TV show Friends where there was a deleted scene at the airport where Chandler jokes about a bomb. They didn't use that in respect to 9/11. You know, I can understand making changes to stuff that hadn't aired yet. Like the movie, like Spider-Man hadn't come out yet. I can understand that. But anything that had aired and had already been released, to change it would have been sacrilege, in my opinion. Kronos' Bird of Prey, hope your migraine is better. Oh, it was, Kronos. It was a lot better even by the end of that stream that I did in the dark. Not Ryan Johnson says, hello in Qapla. Hello in Qapla. When are you going to buy Miss Monopoly game, Bird? Miss Monopoly game, just to slightly pivot from 9/11, we'll get back to it. But I actually have Miss Monopoly game up on my browser, even though we're not going to get to it today. We'll probably get to it next week. But Miss Monopoly game is a troll by Hasbro. Okay? And the feminists, they don't even understand they're being trolled yet, which is what makes it so genius. I know No Bullshit, which is a pretty cool channel, but the guy got it completely wrong this time. He's like, oh, Hasbro sold out to the feminists. Absolutely not. Hasbro has been trolling the left for a while. I mean, they released Socialist Monopoly a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, and it actually got pulled from shelves because people got triggered by it, and it was like, at first they thought it was great, and then they realized it was making fun of them, and so they had it nixed. This Miss Monopoly, it is making fun of feminism, okay, of modern feminism, right? It's making fun of it because it's so absurd. You have a game where women just make more money for going around the board and for doing things, and it has inventions by famous women. Okay, fine, but the windshield wiper or something like that, like, I mean, they did this in The Simpsons, okay? They did this in The Simpsons, where they were talking about women inventors versus men inventors. And listen, yes, women inventors invented many, many good things. But in the scale of things invented, they represent, what, 10% of all inventions? So it's okay. I mean, we don't have to pretend that it's even. And you want a game that celebrates it? Fine. But, I mean, they made these rules so absurd that if you actually played the game, you realize just how stupid modern feminism is. And we'll get into it more another day. I don't want to get too far into it. But it's a troll by Hasbro, and it's brilliant. And if I had money to throw away, I would buy a copy. But I don't want to waste it on that at this point. Rock Solid says, afternoon all, son of a bitch. Good afternoon. Rock Solid. Joseph Patrick says, Bird of Prey, I said lol at the end. No need to justify. I'm sorry. I don't know. Kronos says, also have to say hello to Mamo Prey. And she's waving. Ozzy NF says, Bird of Prey, how are things? Hail Kroga. Thank you, Ozzy. Multi-Gun Man says the same. I'm the same way as you with time. Oh, thank you, Multi-Gun Man. Well, good to know, I guess. Rock Solid says, don't forget, people, smash that like button, share via socials, set chat to live chat. Don't forget to turn the mic and camera on before streaming. Donate if you can. Join the Patreon, and down with Turtistan. Well, I have Subscribe Star, but sure, join it. And Down with Turtle saying, thank you so much, Rock Solid. And for those interested in joining my Subscribe Star, you can get to it from BirdoPray5.com. There's a link to Subscribe Star. Chrono says, Rock Solid, I did my part. Live with Matthew says, I think just Jamaican story up. I'll see myself out. I think Jamaican the story up. I see what you did there. Dan23 says, I didn't know that there was a Miss Monopoly. Huh? Yes, that you're making it up. That's what he's, yes. But no, Jamaican wasn't it. I wasn't Jamaican it up. Dan23 says, I don't know, I didn't know there was a Miss Monopoly game. Lol, yeah, it just came out. Actually, it comes out mid-September, so a few more days. Rock Solid says, but did you, Kronos? Wesley says, Bird of Prey, hey man. Mark Andy says, cool runnings and cool story, Bird. Yeah, weird one. Kronos says, I don't know, some emoji at Rock Solid. Uncle Remus says, where is he going with this? I don't know. Aaron Matthews says, so I grew up in Vegas, and even though I don't live there anymore, the shooting there rocked me. I lost a friend, and it was awful. I think the effects for people who live in the city are more when bad happens. I think it affects people who live in a city more when bad happens. Well, probably, yeah. Though I wouldn't, you know. If I was someone who lived in Vegas, who didn't have a family member personally affected, whereas maybe I lived in freaking Lubbock, Texas. But if I had a close family member who was in the World Trade Center when it happened, I would say they probably feel it more, even though they're in Texas, than the average New Yorker. But it is ridiculous and not useful to say who feels worse about a tragedy. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And I'm gonna talk about that. Actually, I'm gonna skip a few comments here because I haven't even started my story. Genesee Hawk says, hi, Bird of Prey 5. I've been enjoying watching you with my husband, Aaron Matthew, and thought you could use another subscriber. Oh, thank you so much. And yes, your husband is a very cool guy. I'm waving. And Mamo Prey is waving. John Araki says, Qapla, never forget. Josh Moore. Shrone Moore says, Bird of Prey 5. The Jamaicans are like the Irish. They have to say it starts about an hour early for anyone to show up. Well, Shrone Moore. I said it again, Josh. Shrone Moore, an hour I could understand, almost. This was 6 hours. This was 6 hours. He could have been there in maybe 3 hours to do us a favor. But he didn't expect it to actually get started until about 6 o'clock. So, yeah. And Chrono says to, is it Genesi? Or not Genesi, it's Genesi, I bet. Chrono says to Genesi, keep up the good work. Vile Mike says, conversational Klingon CD. That brings me back. People would come in my Jeep and they said, do you have any music? I say, no, I've got one CD. They're like, oh, put it on. I put it on, and they'd look at me. One girl just started singing herself because she didn't know what else to do. Vile Mike says, hey to Kronos. Wesley says, Bird of Prey, I just got that done with 5 hours of yard work, which I read before. Kronos says, Sassy is calling me. Of course she is. Wesley says, Bird of Prey, in regards to the Vegas shooting, the only thing that can stop a bad man with a gun is a good man with a gun. For the most part, yes. Yeah, just skip comments, Bird. I know, Kronos. I know. I'm sorry. But this is not a usual stream. Kronos says, what's wrong with his beer? I didn't know anything was wrong. Vile Mike says, did somebody say beer? Rock Solid says, beer is gross, says the guy from Milwaukee. Actually, Rock Solid, I would agree with you. I have drank about as much beer in my life as would fit in this bottle. Possibly less. I never, ever, ever liked the taste of it. I tried to drink it. I tried to like the taste of it. It would make social situations so much easier. Oh my God, no. I was never a beer drinker. I mean, I could stomach, you know, hard liquor because there was less of it and I could drink it as a shot. Or if I had to sip it, I could sip it. Beer, yeah. It smells so dirty to me. I don't understand how you guys drink it, but I know a lot of you people not happy to hear that. I have nothing against people drinking beer, don't get me wrong. I quite like it when most people drink it because I can usually, you know, win money from them easier in poker or something. But, yeah, I don't mind people drinking around me, but I can't stomach it. Chrono says, wow, Bird, wow, just unsubbed. Oh, I'm sorry. Lightwood Matthew says, you're drinking the wrong beers then. Get rid of those light beers. Give a dark the dark oat stout a try. Like Matthew, I tried a lot of different beers. The one that I disliked the least was at, what's the place? It's a chain restaurant that's a brewery. It was in La Jolla, and it was right by the hotel, and it had kind of some type of honey brewed beer that they did. I don't know if they did it on location or whatever, but I could tolerate that somewhat, and that would probably account for half of all my beer consumption in my life was that one time going to that restaurant. John Araki with a $1 super chat. Thank you so much, John Araki. Marlena Monroe, did he skip me? Jeez, I'm so sorry, Marlena. I did skip people. I said, please, and you might have already typed it, but I said, please use that Birdo Pray 5. And Anti-Tracker says, the last few comments would have made more sense if you didn't skip my comment. Lol. Well, Anti-Tracker, as you know, put in at Birdo Pray 5. And I'll make sure I read your comment. Let's see, Marlena, I am on live chat. So Anti-Trigger says to Rock Solid, say, yeah, you know I'm dyslexic. And Anti-Trigger says to Aaron Matthew, yes, but look at the shape of the 5 buildings. I don't know. I don't know what that is. Sorry, guys. Okay. Okay. Surf Trictronics says 58,976 U.S. soldiers were killed in action or wounded during the War on Terror and counting. Yeah. It's a hard number. Uncle Remus says Socialist Monopoly sounds like a collector's item. It probably would be at this point. Where was Marlena? Oh, Anti-Trekker put in a link to a picture. Of course. Make it hard for me. Oh, right. That is the Twin Towers as giving a middle finger. Rebuilt like it was a big middle finger. That's the type of stuff going around. Back in the day, Marlena Monroe did say, hi all. Welcome, Marlena. I am so sorry. Waxody says, play City Skylines. Not today. Probably over the weekend. And he says hi, too. Or she. Yeah, City Skyline streams sometimes over the weekends and always, for the most part, on Tuesdays. Our City Skyline streams. I'm sorry. If you're coming here looking for City Skylines, once or twice a week. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I play it all the time, but I also like doing other streams. And this Friday, because usually Wednesday would be a Deep Space Nine stream, a Deep Space Nine live review. For that Deep Space Nine live review, we're going to move that to this Friday, so we don't lose a week. But yes. Let's see. Multi-Gunman says, Bird of Prey, never really liked beer either. I don't mind whiskey and rum, but only in small portions. Very similar. Uncle Remus says he'll be back. Take care, Uncle Remus. See ya, Uncle, says Marlena. Sean was his Bird of Prey. My aunt was supposed to be in the Twin Towers on September 11th. We could not get into contact with her. She was watching it on TV, but not answering the phone. Well, I'm glad she wasn't in the towers for sure. Seth MacFarlane was supposed to be on the plane. He was supposed to be on the plane, I believe, that was going from Boston to California, and he missed the flight for whatever reason. He was supposed to be on that plane. He doesn't like talking about it, but he has talked about it. And he doesn't like it when people say, oh, you just weren't meant to be there or whatever, because he says, well, if you tell me I wasn't meant to be there, then you're saying, what, all those other people were meant to be there, which is, it's a pretty difficult thing to accept. I understand where he's coming from. And, but that we came really close to losing Seth MacFarlane before we really got to know him. Really big, Okay, don't worry about it. Vile Mike says, Bird of Prey, was it Carl Strauss? No, it wasn't Carl Strauss. It was, like Brewmaster or, Brewhouse, something Brewhouse. It's probably still there. It was on the corner of La Jolla Village Drive and, oh man, I really forgetting the streets, man. It's been so long, but it's right off of I-5 for the La Jolla Village Drive exit, the same exit as the big Mormon temple. Brew house? I don't know. They had big pretzels. They were good. They were pretty good. Marlena says it's okay, Bird. Oh, thank you, Marlena. Aaron Mathers says, Bird of Prey, we didn't hear you say put the @ to get it read. Oh, Aaron, I'm sorry. I said it probably before many people got on. But in general, Aaron, that is always the good idea on this channel and all channels. And I do have it in the description. Of course, I know nobody reads the description, but it's in there too. And I was debating putting a graphic on the screen to just say that so everybody knows. But from now on, and just not only from now on, it's been like this forever. But if you put @BirdoPrey5, I will almost always read your chat. If you don't put @BirdoPrey5, on most streams, I'll still read your chats, but on streams like today, where I actually have something I want to say and get through, it's a lot less likely. Rocksuds as well, Bird of Prey just schooled Anti-Trekker on using the @ to get his attention. Well played. Well, Anti-Trekker tells us often enough, right? He should know. Sharon Moore says, Bird of Prey, we were very upset with my aunt. NYPD cut our calls. They got in on the call and started shouting at my mom. Did she not know what was happening? What? NYPD cut our calls? They got in on the call and started shouting at my mom. Did she not know what was happening? I'm not understanding that, Shomore. The NYPD broke into your phone call? A cell phone or a landline? Honestly, either way, I'm amazed. I've never heard of that happening. Shromor says, Bird of Prey, should not the socialist education be collective education? A collective edition, not collector's edition. I don't know if it was, I don't think it was branded as a collector's edition. It just, because I think, you see, when you brand something as a collector's edition, you almost guarantee it'll never become a true collectible, right? No, I mean, my sister has Barbie dolls from like 1985 that say collector's edition on them, and you go on eBay and you're lucky if they're going for $19.95. $19.95, which is probably what they paid for them back in 1985. Because it says collector's edition, it really becomes uncollectible. However, if you had an actual Barbie doll still new in the box that didn't say collector's edition, you would probably be able to get more for it. And you know, so this monopoly that they thought they were going to sell for, I don't know, months or a year, and they ended up selling for just days or a week or two, that's something that's actually collectible because it wasn't released as a collector's edition. Joseph says Seth was stoned AF. That's the reason why he missed the plane. You're right, I remember. Rock Solid says my friend Doug was supposed to be on that flight that hit the Pentagon. Thankfully, he didn't have survivor's guilt. Well, that's good to know. Janice says, Bird of Prey, since you didn't catch it, my name is Denise, but with a J sound at the beginning. Janice. Okay, thank you so much, Janice. I will try to remember, but thank you. Yes, I obviously... See, I pronounce J like GIF, and I know it's supposed to be pronounced GIF, but I pronounce it GIF. And why do I say it's supposed to pronounce GIF? Because that's how the creators of the format called it. When they were creating it, they purposely were calling it like the peanut butter Jif with J-I-F, but they spelt it G-I-F. So, thank you, Janice. Yes, I had to run that through my head again. Not yet. No, I don't. I'm sorry. I was going to be later. I just wanted it around. Shrum was his Bird of Prey. Yes, NYPD said the phone systems were getting jammed and they need to keep it for emergencies. Well, that's really, really weird. But yes, the phone systems were ridiculously jammed that day. So here, okay, I'm going to start my story. So obviously, 2001. I'd been working at my job I'd started my job August of 2000. So I was at the job just over a year. And I had moved out in that first year. I got my own apartment. I was living on my own for my first time. I had been in the apartment a few months, maybe 6 months at this point. And I had gotten things down. I'd gotten a routine going. I'd get up. Because like I said, I was always good with time. I would get to places early. I would wake up like a minute before I'd have the alarm just go off. I mean, I thought it was great. Because I could get up, look at the clock. It'd be like whatever time it is, 6:59. I had the clock set for 7, say. And I was like, okay, I can shut off the alarm. I would go take a shower, and then I would come out of the shower, and I would set the alarm again for the next day, because I didn't want to risk forgetting to set the alarm for the next day, you know, when I got home from work, or when I was going, because I'd go to bed pretty tired sometimes. At this point in my life, it had never occurred to me, well, what if I don't come home that night? Because I was like, well, of course I'm going to come home that night. You know, come hell or high water. I always anticipated coming home the next day. I don't know if it was youthful ignorance or just the fact that, I mean, obviously there's many reasons I might not have come home now that I think about it. I remember taking flights out of work, you know, going into work in the morning and being told I need to fly out to California that afternoon, but at least I'd go home and get a change of clothes so I could shut off the alarm. But there's reasons I could have not come home. I never thought of it. The thing was, though, that the day before, Monday, September 10th, was a good friend's bachelor party, because he was getting married later in the week, or that following weekend, and the only time they could have his bachelor party was on a Monday night, because his brother was in the Navy, and his brother couldn't get back until that Monday, and then I guess he was going to be in the week for the wedding, and then he had to be deployed again. So we held off on having the bachelor party until a Monday night. So it was a Monday night. It was a beautiful night, I believe. I mean, I remember it pretty decent. Oh, it was pouring rain, Mama Pray says? Early, okay, but I'm talking like 12, 11, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Oh, you're ready to
Right, okay, yeah. So, right, because we started off at dinner at like 8 p.m. in the city, and we went for a few hours after that. So, now, understand, I hated Manhattan. Okay, we call it New York City, but technically New York City is the 5 boroughs. Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx, and Staten Island. But if you live in the city, you call the city Manhattan. So I always hated Manhattan, the city. Way too crowded, too many people. Always tried to avoid it my entire life. So this was one of my very few trips to Manhattan, and certainly the first trip in a long time where I went more or less alone, and I was meeting up with people there. Now, one of the, let's see, no, I didn't drive in. I used, because there was a railroad not too far from, give me guys 1 second. I've got to put the camera off because Mama Pray needs a little help, but I am still talking. Okay, well, that's.
I can't give it to you. It's the bottom where my hand is.
Okay, well, I was going to take one or the other. Okay. No, hold on, guys. Ooh, and that's heavy.
Is this that I needed to?
I'm sorry. Well, I can't reach that.
Oh. Okay.
I got these. That's got to be good enough. Okay. Well, give me the base. I'll do it now.
Okay.
I'll do it now. I forget which one goes where. Man, these are bigger than I remember. I wonder if it's going to fit on camera.
Alright, you got to push down there?
Yeah, down enough.
It was this that I had my hand stuck in.
Okay, well, I had no way of reaching that. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, it's alright.
Oh, I'm fine, Azine. I'm fine. Okay, we're coming back. So, this is a little out of order. But, yeah, it's, can you, pan the camera up a minute?
Yeah.
So, these are the twin towers I built out of Legos.
Bring my hand down.
Yes, your hand down. Yeah, a lot more. Oh, wait, I realized this isn't live. This I'm seeing like 30 seconds behind, so, yeah, okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, so this is the Twin Towers. I built it out of Legos years ago. It's actually pretty, I'd say it's like 2.5 feet tall. Probably definitely 2.5 feet with the antenna on the top of the North Tower there. And yeah, bring it back down. Bring it back down. That's probably, leave it there. We'll see how it is. Anyway, I had an unfortunate experience when first building them, is that if I touched them too hard, they'd collapse. So I couldn't risk that happening. So actually inside of these towers, both, are a bunch of back and forth braces. So these towers are now like rock solid. They're not coming down. But the base, the base is significantly less strong. And you can see it's actually, I think that's that's 7 World Trade Center, which is was an angled building, and that's white and black. And on the back side, we have the fountain. Yeah, well, I tell you, after 5 or 6 years sitting, these got a little loose. But yeah, so okay. Okay, I'm sorry. So we're crashing. I'm crashing. Okay, so anyway, you can see I got the park there with the globe and 7 World Trade Center. So I'll give these back to Mama Pray, and she can put them off. I actually have pictures of them. Yeah, I know. I'll take my time. I'll take them one at a time. Bruce Lombardo, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. You didn't even say anything. Thank you so much, Bruce. Yes, you're getting North Tower. Kronos is finding this funny.
Well, carrying it up downstairs and taking it out of the box.
Yeah, these were downstairs in a box. Mama Pray had them away. Yeah, wrapped in plastic. Well, you could wrap them as 3 separate pieces now. So that'll be easier. Okay, I'm so sorry about that, guys. But I was actually showing that off. I was quite proud of that. I quite liked that. And when you can, if you could just move the camera down a bit again. Yeah, slightly. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. Where was I in the chat? Aaron Matthews says, Bird of Prey, I think a graphic is a great idea. Well, thank you, Aaron. I guess I'm going to do that soon. On future streams, we'll just say, we'll like put it into the bottom underneath the view screen somewhere. Say, please use @BirdofPrey5 to have your chat read out loud or something. I just needed to figure out a way of doing that. Wesley Crusher says, Bird of Prey 5. Back in 2001, my girlfriend's birthday was September 12th. Well, I'm assuming her birthday still is September 12th, just perhaps she's not your girlfriend anymore. I don't think they changed birthdays. And Josh Street says, Bird of Prey, if you say Alpaca O Prey 3 times, Bird of Prey will show up at your house. Right. Now I remember. I was in the middle of telling my story. So, it was September 10th, the night of. Me and a bunch of my friends were out in the city. It was the bachelor party. And I'd always hated the city. And I hated public transportation even more. But we were using buses and subways to get around the city because, people were drinking. I wasn't drinking so much, but other people were. And there was at one point of the night we were somewhere where I was looking down a street and the Twin Towers were standing, beautiful, at the end of they weren't at the end of this street, but they were a distance away, but it was just a perfect vantage point to see them. And I was looking up, and I was saying to myself, and I swear this is going through my head, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should reevaluate Manhattan. Maybe I should think about it again. I always saying, I don't ever want to come here, and it's terrible, and it's crowded, and it smells, and you know, there's criminals, even though it's honestly, it is probably the safest big city on the planet, especially at the time. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I've been wrong about it. Maybe, just maybe, I should reconsider Manhattan. Because the night went well. It was a good night. We all had a good time. And I didn't get home till after 3 in the morning. And literally, that was it. I was thinking, maybe I'll start going to Manhattan more. So I didn't get home till after 3 in the morning. Because I didn't get home till after 3 in the morning, and I was still young at this time. I was about 22 years old or something. So, you know, when you're 22, you can still pull all-nighters without having to go to sleep. You still get a few in them per year at that age. So I was 3 a.m. I tried to go to sleep. I laid down for like 45 minutes, an hour. I couldn't get to sleep. So I was like, okay, forget this. I took a shower early, and I actually headed into work early. So I ended up getting into work that day about 6 a.m. But because I went in so early, I didn't set my alarm to go off, which, had I done that, you know, would have been awkward because I did not get home that night. So I went into work like 6 a.m. and, you know, I get into work at 6 a.m. There's almost nobody there. I'm in the zone. I'm doing what I got to do. It's great. I was like, I have my work I need to get done for the day done by 9 a.m. and I have the rest of the day to just F around and hang out with people, because that was the kind of job it was. And I don't know, I was, you know, the importing company I worked for, we were in a building. We didn't own the entire building. We didn't own the building. We rented 3 floors. It was a 3-story building. We rented the entire 2nd floor, half of the 3rd floor, and a quarter of the 1st floor. And I was on the 1st floor. And where we were, we didn't have any type of television. So around 8 a.m. or so, Mom O'Prey calls me, which was kind of weird that she'd call. I mean, I would still call every day after work and say, you know, because I'd been only out on my own less than a year, so I'd try to call every day. And so seeing her call in the morning was a little weird. I said, hello. She's like, are you watching the news or whatever she said? I was like, no. I got a plane hit the World Trade Center. I was like, oh. I was like, I guess I'll go up and look. Thank you. I didn't think much of it at the time. I probably even didn't run immediately to go up and look. But, so I talked to one of the other guys who was down there. He would come in at 8. So he just got in. Most people started at 9, but this guy started at 8. So he had just got in. I said, hey, you know, Mike, I heard that a plane hit the World Trade Center. It's on all the news. So we go up, and on the 2nd floor is what they call the ballroom. But it's basically just a big, I don't know, dining room, say, but it's not in the mid, it's not its own room. It's just like a big open area where they have a TV and some chairs and tables set up, and there's a kitchen next to it. So we go to what we call the ballroom, and, you know, it's 8 a.m. Most people in the building don't start till 9, so there's maybe 10 people there, 12 people, and out of where there'd usually be 100 people later in the day, and they've got a big screen TV. We put it on, and sure enough, just as we see a plane hit the World Trade Center live on TV. And I'm like, holy shit. And we're like, wow, everybody's going like, wow, we don't know what's going on. One guy who's there, his wife worked at the World Trade Center. He's going nuts. He just leaves because he figures he's going to try to get there. Obviously, he never did. Luckily, she was fine. But the rest of us were just looking, and then I'm like 5 minutes into watching, I'm like, wait a second. Or maybe not even 5, maybe a minute. I was like, why was the building on fire already when the plane hit? Because it didn't sink in yet that what I watched was the second plane hitting the World Trade Center. I thought we were watching footage of the first plane, but then I realized, wait, why would there already be smoke and a bunch of smoke coming from the building before the plane hit? And then people realized, oh shit, this was a second plane that hit the World Trade Center. So they're like, oh shit, that's when, obviously when the second plane hit, I think, is when everybody realized this was no accident. Up until that time, I think certainly people were preferring to think this was a big accident. And I think when Mom O'Prey told me, I was only thinking, oh my God, what an accident. Because I thought about it and I knew in the 1940s or whatever, a plane did hit the Empire State Building. And like I said, it happens. Now, September 11th was a clear day in New York City. Beautiful, beautiful day. Couldn't have asked for a nicer day. And so it was like that moment everything changed. So, work for the most part stopped that day. Although people were there, we were allowed to leave if we wanted to. I didn't. I stayed there. Now, had I been coming in to work at my normal time, I probably would have been on a bridge at the time at 8:07 when the first plane hit the tower. Now, I doubt I would have been looking at the tower, because to look at the tower, I'd definitely have to turn my head not only to the left, but kind of to the left and behind me to see it, because I'd be going north on the bridge, and it would have been like behind me a little and on the left of the Throgs Neck Bridge. But conceivably, I don't know what would have happened, but it's conceivable I could have seen it, or I could have seen people could have been stopping the cars. I would have been listening to the radio, so I probably would have heard about it within a couple minutes of it happening. So who knows? Who knows? But I was there, and so by the time the day goes on, early on in the day when they realize, hey, no work is being done today, like people say, well, what should we do with the phones? And management said, just put it on, weekend. Let everything go to voicemail. And so that's basically what we did. And they catered in food. Now, I was a little weirded at that, because they catered in food. Now, some people, like myself, the last thing we thought about was eating. But other people, they were eating and watching TV, and like, oh, this is so terrible. It was, but I don't know. It seemed weird. And then by the end of the day, not even by the end of the day, but at some point, all the bridges were closed. Every bridge closed. And the highways were closed. Sister O'Prey had been going out to work at a bank out in Long Island, and she lived in Brooklyn, and her car didn't start that morning, so she took Mom O'Prey's car. Luckily, she did, because with all the highways closed, she didn't know how to get home. But luckily, Mom O'Prey kept paper, atlases. They still, like Rand McNally road maps in her car. So Sister O'Prey had the Rand McNally maps for Long Island and New York City, so she could figure out how to get home from where she was in Long Island without taking highway. It took her hours and hours and hours to get home, but she managed it. I was lucky in that the company I worked for had a few apartments around New Rochelle, and so they gave an apartment that nobody was staying in to me and another guy. We were splitting the apartment for the night. Now, I had no other clothes, so we went to Costco beforehand, and we bought some clothes for the next day. And we get to the apartment. It's a nice little place, I guess. I don't want to speculate as to why the apartment existed, but it was a nice place. And the only problem was we got there, and there was this terrible odor in the apartment, and when we went into the kitchen, the sink was backed up in bubbling black gook. It was disgusting. Apparently somebody's sink somewhere had gotten clogged, and it had started backing up into this apartment. Now, we didn't need the sink. We weren't going to use the kitchen. We just need a place to sleep and go back to work in the morning. But it was a good thing we were there, because we did get, maintenance to take a look at that. So the next day, I went back into work. I mean, I'll be honest, no work happened for the next week. But I did make it home that next night. I got home and to my apartment, which I had realized that I had luckily not set the alarm for, because had I set the alarm that day, had I gone to work and it had been a normal day, and I had set my alarm and I would not have gotten back to work apartment the next day, my alarm would go off and it would not stop. Okay, my alarm was one of the alarms that would not stop until somebody hit it. So, and as much as I loved that place, it was a very nice apartment building, the walls between the units weren't the thickest. Okay, I could occasionally hear noises from other apartment. Now, the apartment next to me was an older gentleman, but I could hear when his living room TV was on loud. I could, just about hear it. So I'm sure he would have been hearing loud buzzing coming from my apartment, and he would have, told the superintendent, who would have come up, opened the door, and seen the apartment empty, and the alarm going off, and probably surmised, like many people didn't come home that day because they didn't know where I worked. They probably would have surmised something bad happened. But luckily that didn't happen. I remember in the days after, they were putting dots on tires because there were so many cars left at train stations for people who went into work that day and never came home to get their car, many of whom never came home because they died. And so they were marking tires at train stations. So after 3 or 4 days, if nobody moved their car, they had to come have the cars towed out of there, and they were presuming those people as lost. Because, it was a long time before we got a final count on the number of dead. Yes.
Do you remember Michael? Well, obviously you remember Michael, your cousin, Uncle Buddy's son.
Mm-hmm.
He worked as a fireman, and you couldn't find him for 2 or 3 days. He was in the hospital.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, right. So I have a cousin who worked. He was a New York City fireman, and my uncle's son. And nobody could find him. He was like 2 or 3 days before they found out where he was. Luckily, he was okay, but he was in the hospital. And I had another cousin on a different other side of the family who was also a firefighter, and he was under the, for those who don't know New York City, Stuyvesant High School is right by the Trade Center. And between Stuyvesant and, I don't know, some other building, there's a bridge that goes over the main highway. And so this other cousin, he was stationed, he was with the fire department, he was just under that bridge. And he was there when the towers came down. He was one of the people covered in ash. But luckily, he was also okay. And, yeah. Now, unfortunately, so after the towers came down that day, I went back down to my office, and now we still had internet, but cell phone coverage was dead. I mean, you couldn't get through on cell phone. You had like a 1 in a million chance. So landlines were the only thing we had. And now the weird thing is, because I was the technical person, so I knew this, and our network manager knew this too. Our ISP was based in 7 World Trade Center. And all through the day of 9/11, our internet was still working somehow, which was like magic. So all through the day, actually AOL Instant Messenger, okay, became the go-to way to communicate with people, because it was like the only thing actually working at the time. Now I was landline calling my friends who I know would sometimes work in the city, or who had family members who worked in the city, and I didn't know exactly where they worked, but one of the first people I called was my friend and his father. His father worked in the towers, and they could not reach him, and I heard as soon as I think his mother answered the phone, he was like, hello, hello, and I was like, oh my God, I could hear in her voice that she was hoping, you know, beyond hope, it was a loved one, and it was me, and I felt so bad, but I was like, oh, it's, you know, it's so-and-so is my friend there, his name, and it's like, oh, yes, yes, and so she put him on, and he told me, oh, you know, we were just trying to leave the phone open, we're hoping my father calls. I was like, okay, I'm so sorry, but he thanked me for calling, you know, because, you know, concerned, and, yeah, unfortunately, he did not come home. Months later, we were at his block in Queens, and they were renaming part of the street, because they did it for, you know, not all, but a good number of people who passed away on 9/11. Their streets were named after them in their honor. So we were at the street renaming ceremony, and I was there with a group of friends, and in our group of friends, one of the guys is Indian. So brown, to be honest, to just say brown. And I mean, we knew he was Indian, but obviously if you looked at him, especially soon after 9/11, you know, people couldn't tell the difference between Indian and you know, Muslim. And obviously there are Muslim Indians, but most Indians are not Muslim. But, you know, just looking at the face, you could have been, you don't know. So apparently, good thing I did not hear this, because had I heard this, I probably would have been arrested. But apparently somebody at the block renaming ceremony said something to my brown friend about how I forget exactly what it was, but it was something like implying like his people were responsible for 9/11, and the guy dealt with it much better than I would have, because he just walked away. He didn't want to start anything over it. Goddamn, had I heard that, I would have decked that guy, because just not something you say, especially if you don't even know, you know, it's bad enough to say that to somebody who probably had nothing to do with it. You know, you don't know that anybody had anything to do with it. But even more so, you can't even tell the difference between the group you're blaming for it, and a otherwise completely innocent group who have absolutely no business saying that in public at all, especially not to a person's face. So, yeah, so that was sad. This is why I wrote out the agenda. So that night of 9/11, I mean, I remember we were in the apartment and we had TV on, and I mean, at some point we kind of got tired of just hearing the same story. There was no new news. It was just airing the same thing over. So at one point we like tried to put something else on TV. And I mean, the apartment had cable. So we started going to cable channels, and virtually every cable channel was out. It was either completely out because they had some type of, I don't know, like a lot of New York stations broadcast out of the Twin Towers. So they had to fall back to their backup location, which was the Empire State Building. Now, I don't know why this affected cable channels. Maybe people just couldn't make it into work. But a number of cable channels, at least in New York, were just running a computer-generated message that said, please tune into your local news. And that was it. Like, if you put on Comedy Central, you couldn't watch Comedy Central. You got a message saying, please tune into your local news, which was crazy. And for months, honestly, even a year or more, they would do checkpoints at tunnels and bridges, and because I mean we were all so afraid of what's going to happen next, and I mean they would see like the news reporters, the traffic reporters, they started saying, and traffic is slow at the Throgs Neck Bridge due to, and they would say something like a slow speed accident or whatever. They said something that was very strange of them to say. But when you went to like the website of 1010 News or 880 WABC or whatever, WCBS, whatever it was, that deals with 2 AM news stations, and you would go to their traffic reports. Their traffic reports were literally just the text that were sent to the traffic reporters by, I guess, the traffic reporting agencies. So they actually said in brackets, not for broadcast, police checkpoint at Throgs Neck Bridge. So the traffic reporters, they couldn't say that, hey, there was a police checkpoint at Throgs Neck Bridge. So they would say a slow-moving accident or slow-moving traffic due to an accident without injuries. That's what they'd say. Slow-moving traffic due to an accident without injuries at the Throgs Neck Bridge. Slow-moving traffic due to an accident without injuries at the Battery Tunnel, and so. And it was ridiculous. Months. It was over a year that I would read the traffic reports, and it would say, do not broadcast. But it was right there on the website. And these traffic reporters would say the same line over and over and over again. Like, does nobody notice that this is new, that they never said this before? I guess not. I mean, nobody ever brought it up that I know. Oh, man. It was like, I mean, if you're old enough to remember, then you understand this. But if you're not old enough to remember, there's no way to understand it. But 9/11 was mentioned on the news every single day. If you watched any news, right? If you watched the morning news or the evening news or news at noon, whatever it was, every single day for over 5 straight years, 9/11 was mentioned. I swear to God, I would, because after a year or two, I was like, holy shit, I don't think a day has gone by where I haven't heard, somebody on the TV hasn't said 9/11, 9/11, 9/11. And usually more than once, okay? It wasn't even that it was just once. Usually it was a lot more than once. And it was TV, it was newspaper, it was blogs, whatever. Everybody was saying 9/11 every day for over 5 years. I don't remember the exact date. I think it was on the 6th or 7th year that I realized one morning, I was like, holy shit. I think a whole day went by that I didn't hear the word 9/11 or the phrase 9/11. It was 6 or 7 years later. That is crazy when you think about it. Every single day, whatever you put on, 9/11, 9/11, 9/11. This is going to be a little unpopular, but okay. The 9/11 a lot of people died, okay? It's tragic, very, very sad. I think it was a tragedy as a nation. I think the individual families, though, and I hate to say this because, you know, I told you already, one of my very good friends' father passed away. I think we give them too much attention. On the national scale or city scale, it was a tremendous tragedy. But on a personal scale, it was an unexpected death. Okay? And I hate to tell you, I hate to be the bearer of bad news or whatever you want to say. And yes, 3,000 people had bad news. Very, very, very the worst news you could have that day. But any one of them could have had that same bad news the day before or the day after if their loved one got hit by a bus, got in a terrible car accident, had an aneurysm, or any number of unfortunate accidents could have happened to them that they could have gone to work that day and not made it home. It happens to a lot of people all across the country, all across the world. A lot of people go to work and die and don't make it home. Not usually 3,000 in one city in one day, but it can happen. And, you know, why do we... I have a hard time wondering, why do we give the family of a 9/11 victim, frankly, $1.5 million, I think is what the victim's compensation fund turned out to be in the end. And I know it varied, I think, depending on various factors, but let's just say $1 million. Why do we give the family of a 9/11 victim $1 million, but we don't give the family of a guy who gets hit by a drunk driver $1 million? I say, well, he could sue the drunk driver. Well, yeah, he could, and maybe his family would sue, and maybe they would collect something through insurance, assuming the person who hit them was insured, which there's no guarantee there is. So, I mean, if we had a set amount that was given to families of people who died due to unfortunate circumstances, well, I think that's probably a dumb idea to have, because I think the number of people who died due to unfortunate circumstances would increase through foul play or suicide made to look like unfortunate circumstance. But if we had that, I could maybe understand. But to me, and like I said, I know it's going to be unpopular, if I lost a family member in 9/11, yes, it would be tragic. But would it be any more tragic that my family member died on 9/11 than if they had been killed by a bus, by a drunk driver, or had just had a heart attack? Right? If they had just had a heart attack or an aneurysm that day and they fell to the ground, there's nobody to sue in that respect. Would my loss be less tragic somehow? No. It would be exactly as tragic to me, if I lost a loved one. It's only to the city or the country, the state, that it's a tragedy, a national tragedy. I don't know if I'm saying it right, and I don't want to get anybody upset, because I obviously am not trying to belittle it in any way whatsoever. I just have a hard time logically in my head, because I'm an engineer and I think about things logically. I don't understand I don't understand why. And Jesus Christ, again this morning, 18 years now, they read off the names of every person who died on 9/11, and I know that was supposed to stop after 10 years. I think it was supposed to stop after 5 years, and then they said, okay, we'll do it till 10. And then at 10 years, people are like, no, no, it can't stop. And it's still going on. And I don't know if they're ever going to stop. God knows. I hope at 20 they say, okay, 20 is enough. Hard stop. We're not going to do this anymore. Because I'll be honest, the first few years, yeah, I mean, I listened intently. I watched everything. And I wanted to remember. I wanted to get that angry again. I wanted it to build up in me and you know, not only never forget, but remember every detail. But after 10 years, and now 18 years later, and I see these people getting up on stage and still crying over the loss of their loved ones, and I feel for them. I really, really do. But I wonder, are we making this worse for them? Okay? If we keep reopening this wound every single year, for Christ's sakes, most people who, even if they lost a wife or a husband, even a child, which is the worst pain anybody can go through, I'm sure. But it happens. Okay? Most people, 18 years later, yeah, it sucks. They're crying. But they're probably not crying every single year. They're not, nobody's holding a big to-do, a big ceremony about it every single year. I just think we're hurting them more than we're helping them. There are so many people now that have defined their lives as being 9/11 victims or families of 9/11 victims. They have no other purpose in life anymore. And I think, yeah, I'll be honest, I was part of the problem because I was definitely in that culture. We need to remember, we need to never forget. And yes, we should never forget the lessons we learned, but you know, these are people's lives that are not moving on. And some of them, yeah, they've remarried and whatever, they've found a lot of them have married other spouses of other victims because they've gotten together through 9/11 outreach and whatever, which is good, I guess, you know, to move on. But even those people move on, they still define themselves by 9/11, and that I don't know. I mean, it just makes things. It makes it weird. I don't like it. I think as a nation, we're kind of taking advantage of these people. I really hope that, because I mean, we've done this now for 18 years. There are kids who are grown up who have never even known. Their parents weren't alive when they were born. And yes, it's tragic, but to that kid, they don't know any different. And they come out on stage and they talk and they go, and well, yeah, but you know, millions and millions of kids are born every year not knowing who their mother was or who their father was, for many reasons, including because they died. And Mama Pray's mother died when Mama Pray was very, very young, 5 years old. So I mean, this is tragic stuff, but it happens. And man, my mother's sister was 32? 32 years old, prime of her life, just had a baby. Aneurysm, brain aneurysm, dead. Out of the blue, dead. Her husband took decades. And may not, you know, but eventually moved on. Not forgotten. We'll never forget. But moved on.
15 years later.
15 years. Okay, now, I've seen people who've had spouses die, move on 5 years. 5 years. 6 years, 10 years, 15. He was, I gotta say, 15 years, but I'm happy. I think we're all happy. Mama Pray is happy too. You know, that he finally moved on a bit. But, you know,
You know who I feel bad for?
Who do you feel bad for?
Well, obviously, all the victims, and I feel bad for their families, but all the people that went in to help with the cleanup, that were told the air was okay to breathe, the area was safe, and the people that went to help find
Victims,
survivors, and then I knew many people that went.
mm-hmm.
I can't say any of them are still alive.
So Mama Prey was saying that she feels really bad for were the people who went to go help, to clean up, to find, to search, besides the people who died initially, firefighters and the police people who died at the scene. But no, in the weeks following, because the government told us the air was safe, which, I'll be honest, I knew it that day it was total bullshit. There is no way those Twin Towers come down full of asbestos. Okay? They used asbestos in the buildings. They came down, just the soot made it all across Brooklyn and Queens. It was for days. I went to my friend still had his wedding. The next week we crossed the Verrazano Bridge. It was still smoking on fire. Because from the Verrazano Bridge, you had a perfect view of the Twin Towers when they were standing. We crossed that bridge, and oh my God, it was still just a smoking. I wasn't even a crater yet because the debris was still there. It was just soot and smoke, and it was constantly spewing out and blowing all around Manhattan and blowing over to Brooklyn and blowing through Queens. And there's this bullshit commercial that comes on still to this day about how if they passed something about 9/11 compensation, that if you live south of Canal Street, you're entitled to millions of dollars and call this law group, blah, 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 blah. But you see the map and you see Canal Street, and Canal Street kind of dips down and goes back up. So there are people who live south of Canal Street who are further away than some people who live closer who are north of Canal Street. But because of some judge or lawyer somewhere that decided we'll set the boundary to be Canal Street, if you live on the south side of Canal Street, you could be getting millions of dollars. But if you live on the north side of Canal Street and you get cancer, you're shit out of luck. And everybody in the city got exposed.
The wind was blowing south.
The wind, Mama Price saying the wind was blowing. For maybe that morning, it was blowing south.
Do you remember on East 80th Street?
Yes.
I stood there.
Mm-hmm.
They were still, you could see the smoke coming and coming right down.
Yeah.
Right down the water.
Yeah. Admiral Saval with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Admiral. May all those heroes rest in peace for all time. Thank you. Thank you, Admiral. Anyway, the government lied. But you know what? What else were they supposed to do? I don't even blame them. Because everybody knew. Okay, I don't care. You couldn't be that stupid. If you knew anything about what was going on, you knew that air was poison. Okay, but you know what? You were going to go frickin' help anyway. Because that's just what we do. Okay, now they had to say it wasn't poison so that 1 million people or 10 million people didn't leave the city in panic. I guess that was probably what they were worried about. But I'll be honest. They could have said it was poison. We weren't going to leave the city. You know, maybe a few people would have run for the hills. The vast majority of the city would have been like, oh, I guess we're going to die of cancer one day. It's just what's going to happen. Because we weren't going to leave. But they didn't want to panic on their hands. So they said, oh, it's all okay. Frickin' that woman governor of New Jersey who was head of the EPA, I forget her name, she came out and said, oh, we tested the air, it's all completely safe. How is it possibly completely safe? All of the equipment, all of the stuff that got pulverized into dust. Amazing. I mean, they had to say it was safe because we couldn't have cleaned the place up. We could not have cleaned up the crater. We couldn't have cleaned up Lower Manhattan if people had to wear hazmat suits. It would have been an impossible task. You guys all saw, I hope you saw Chernobyl. Because if you haven't seen Chernobyl, you should watch Chernobyl. It is an amazing documentary. Quasi-documentary. There's some dramatization, but it is heavily based on a true story. And you watching Chernobyl and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe their government lied about the government saying, oh, there's no radiation danger. But, there was a ton of radiation danger. Well, you know what? Our government does the same thing, right? They did it on 9/11. They said, oh, the air is perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. And to be honest, George Bush, he didn't wear a mask when he went down to the rubble. He wasn't wearing a hazmat suit. He got up on the rubble with the firefighter, put his arm around him, and made his speech, and we all cheered, Republican or Democrat, that day. We all cheered for him. He wasn't in a hazmat suit, but we couldn't have cleaned up with a hazmat suit. We couldn't have cleaned it up as a toxic situation. We would still be cleaning out the place if we had to, and it would cost us trillions of dollars if we had to count every piece of trash that came out as hazmat trash. So I don't even blame them for lying, but we need to remember they did, and you need to remember they will, right? They will lie when it suits them. And in the end, I'll be honest, you can't blame them. One of the best ways, and I used to re-listen to it for years and years afterwards, 10 years maybe, every 9/11, every September 11th, I would re-listen to the Howard Stern radio show from that day. Now, if you go into YouTube and put in Howard Stern September 11th show, the first video, I believe, is actually somebody who put the hour and a half or 2 hours of the Howard Stern show and linked it up to television footage from that same time period. So you can hear, because the Howard Stern show, now I was never a fan of Howard Stern. I wasn't. I didn't listen to him. But I listened to this. Prior to the show, you got a couple minutes of them acting like normal, and then all of a sudden, and thank you so much, Alexander. I'll get to it in 1 second. So they're talking like normal, the normal gags and goofs, and then all of a sudden you hear about this tragic event of plane hit the World Trade Center, and people are asking, well, how big was it? What was it? And looking pretty bad, and then they see the second plane hit, and Howard Stern's like, "Oh, it's an attack. We're at war. I know who did it." He knew it was Bin Laden. He knew it was Bin Laden. It's crazy. But I would definitely suggest you search out if you weren't born yet, or if you were a kid and you don't know what it was like to experience 9/11, or if you were and you just want to remember, maybe you're starting to forget, I'll put in the link. In fact, I have the link here. And I'm so sorry, guys, about getting so far behind in the chat. I'll get to that in a quick second. Here we go. Oh, okay. Well, let's see. 508. Well, I'm going to be way behind. Okay. So this is the link to the Howard Stern show from 9/11, listed with linked with news footage from that day. So yeah, not now, obviously, but at some point I suggest people rewatch it. You get to see, at least especially the first 15-20 minutes. You go from all fun and lighthearted, like we all were, innocent. So pre 9/11, and then reality strikes really hard and really fast. Okay, so Alexander with a $2 Canadian super chat says trillions of dollars should be spent for saving lives. Well, Alexander, it would have just made it an impossible task, okay? New York City would still have a big smoking hole in the ground today. Some things you have to do, man. You just have to do it. Like in Chernobyl, you know, and you have to clean it up. You have to clean it up, and they had people go up on the roof for, you know, 5 minutes at a time, even though that was taking a really big risk. But you got to do it at some point. You got to do it at some point. And I'm sure that's not going to be a popular thing to say, but I understand why. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. This is going on long. Let me read. Yeah, it does hit me hard. Thank you. Let's go through some of the chats. Aaron Matthews says, Bird of Prey, my family have odd names, especially with our kids being named after DS9 characters. That's amazing, Aaron. It really is. Anti-Trigger says, later all, gotta run. This meat is not going to drink itself. Aaron Matthews says, Bird of Prey, this stream wouldn't be complete without a Mama Prey story of what happened for her in 9/11. You know, maybe she can do that later. Let's get through some of the comments first, if she's up to it. We'll see. Kronos says, I wish I could rant about things and such. Well, why can't you? Azine says, hey, Bird of Prey, hope all is well. Hope you are well. Thank you, Azine. Mostly okay. It's a hard day to remember. Aaron Matthews says, is Bird's head glass half empty or half full? That's a good question. Kronos says both. Thomas Butts says, Bird of Prey, these are bigger than I remember. Says it without cameras on. Aaron Matthews says, so cool, Bird of Prey, Lego Towers. Multi-Gunman says, wow, that's cool, Bird. How long did it take you to build that? Well, see, the problem is I had to get the pieces, and there's this site called Bricklink. So you can order specific Lego pieces from there. From the time I intended to build it to the time I actually built it was probably a month or two, because I made lots of little changes along the way, including the reinforcing of the towers on the inside, which was kind of early, and I did I did different setups on top. Some were better than others, but I'd say like a month. But in actual build time, if I was building it today, that would probably take 4 hours to build. It's not a difficult build. It's very repetitive, which is annoying. But it's, you know, you're building it to build a building. It's a work of love. I've actually entered that project on the site ideas.lego.com, years ago before I was a YouTuber. Now you needed 10,000 votes. Somebody's at the door. Oh. Okay, we're going to. Yeah, I got the camera off. Okay. Yeah, you can go. So, sorry, I just let Sassy bark a minute. I designed it, Aaron. I designed it myself. Yeah, it would only take a few hours to build. So I entered it on Lego Ideas, and I got over 1,000 votes, I think, or 800 votes. It was by far the most votes I got, but it was still far short of what I needed to get it considered to be a Lego set. And to be honest, even if I got the 10,000 votes, Lego never ever would have produced that set. It's not for them. But I liked it. I was really proud of it. Cronmore says they look really cool. Thank you so much, Cronmore. And we'll bring the camera back. Rock Solid says, wait a second. You say they have rock solid in there. Yeah, they are rock solid in there. Wesley says, bird of prey, don't break them. I'll try not to. Kronos says that he's laughing his ass off. Aaron Matthews says, oh, rock solid and Kronos. Mine's in the gutter. And Bruce Lombardo put in his super chat. Thank you again, Bruce. Kronos says, oh yeah, love the gutter. Rock Solid says 5 to 6 years of sitting. They got kind of loose. Again, that's what she said. Aaron Matthews says you gotta type gutta in a New York accent, lol. Joseph Patrick says, was this an actual Lego set? No. No, God no. They would never do it. I had to make it myself. Aaron Matthews says, bird of prey, you should do a Lego building stream. Maybe an Enterprise or a Death Star. I've tried doing a Lego building stream. I did one. I was doing Ship in a Bottle, which is an official Lego set, and it took me like 10 times as long to build as it would normally take trying to do the stream and building. And then I still only got halfway finished. I had to finish it off stream. Aaron Matthews says, wow, why am I so excited at the possibility of seeing a Lego building stream? I am not sure if I should feel sorry for myself. There's actually a lot of people who do Lego builds. Although they don't do them live. No, not too many people do them live, but they usually do them time-lapse builds. And Aaron Matthews says, you have to think a certain level of weird to be a Bird of Prey 5 fan, just saying. Yeah, I understand that. Kronos has the Geologia. Surf Trictronics is Bird of Prey. Wise guys can't wear the same clothes the next day no matter what. I couldn't imagine wearing the same clothes, I'll be honest. I used to wear the undershirt under the shirt just because, you know, sweat. Aaron Matthews says, wow, Bird of Prey, never heard about the dots on the tires. Yeah, it was really sad. All because the Long Island Railroad, for those who don't know, there's dozens and dozens of stops all down the length of Long Island. And, you know, millions of people use it to get into the city every day. And a lot of people never came back. And they had to count tires. I mean, I got back to my apartment, but a lot of people never made it home to their apartments. And it was single people, a lot of single people who, you know, people didn't know. You know, in New York City, we don't know our neighbors for the most part. I mean, the only reason I even knew the guy who lived next door to me, I didn't get to know him until after 9/11 when we had the blackout. That was the first time I got to know him because I don't know if I saw him or he asked me if I had an extra battery, and I did. I gave him batteries during the blackout, and he was very nice. He brought me new batteries. Like a week later, he thanked me, and he brought me the new ones. I didn't think I was ever going to see him again. I was like, yeah, you can have the batteries. I had plenty, because that was always the person that was prepared for things like that. And that was the only way I ever knew who he was. And then my other neighbor, I knew who she was, because she was cuckoo in the head. I got home one day, and the first time I met her, I got home, and she's crying, and she's the apartment next to me. I've been living there a few years at this point, maybe 2 years, I don't know. And like, I have to walk past this crying woman to get into my apartment. So how do you not say something, right? So I walk, I'm like, excuse me, miss, are you okay? And she's looking, she's crying. She's like, I'm locked out of my house, of my apartment. And I'm like, oh, well, why don't we just go to the superintendent? I'm sure he can let you in. He hates me. He won't let me in. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm sure he'd let you in. She's like, no. She's like, now understand, my apartment and her apartment shared a balcony. But the person who had owned my apartment before me, or rented it, put up a door between the balcony, dividing it. Everybody else in the building, they just shared the balcony with their neighbor. There was no barricade. We actually had a door between us, so I had never ever seen her outside before. I had no idea who she was, what her situation was, or anything. So she's like, oh, can I go out your balcony and go to the back? My door might be open in the back. Oh, okay, fine. So she comes in and go to her door, and it's locked. Her sliding door is locked. But her bedroom window is open. But her bedroom window isn't over. Her bedroom window is not over the balcony. It's like 4 feet away. So she is trying to reach for her bedroom window. Like, what the hell are you doing? She's like, no, I think I can get it. I was a gymnast. Oh, right. I'm on the 6th floor. And at this point, there's actually we're 7 stories up, because there was also a basement. So, yeah, we're 7 stories up, and she's reaching over to try to get in her bedroom. So I physically pull her down from doing it. I was like, no, don't do that. I was like, that's crazy. You can't do that. And she's like, oh, I could make it. I was like, no. So I was like, Jesus Christ. I just start jiggling on her door really hard. I was like, please, just open. Because I know, I'll be honest, we had really shitty locks on the doors. Okay? I mean, there was just like a penny's worth of metal that was keeping it locked. I know from my door. It was a sliding glass door on the 7th story of a building, where the only person who could ever possibly get to it is your neighbor. Do you even need a lock, to be honest? So I knew it was just a little bit of worth of play. So after shaking it enough, thankfully I got her door open, and she was so thankful, and she went back in her house and closed up the door. Okay, good, and done, and didn't think about it again. No, it wasn't AOC. I don't know if it was 6 months later, maybe. I come back home from work again, and there's 3 police officers banging on her door. And I walk past them. They don't ask me anything. They're just banging. I don't know. I forget her name. Marie or something. Whatever it is. Let's say it's Marie. It's not, but let's say it is. Like, Marie, you gotta come out. Marie, are you in there? Blah, blah, blah. Banging, banging, banging. So I go in my apartment, and I hear them banging, and I'm like, I was like, should I tell them about the back door? I was really torn. I mean, it was clear they were afraid something was wrong with her, but I guess they weren't afraid enough that they were going to break down her door. And I was like, okay. let me tell them. I said, excuse me, officer. I don't know what's going on, but we share a balcony. If you'd like to come in through my apartment, you can go on my balcony and you can, knock on her door or possibly see in, whatever. I don't know. You can get to her back door through my apartment. And so they said, oh, thank you. And 2 officers came in with me. So now my back door had a full-length verticals. So I opened the verticals, and she's on my side of the balcony in a fetal position, rocking back and forth right outside my door. So I was like, oh shit, that's her. She's right there. And they looked, they was like, that's her? They're like, we thought she was, I don't know, a 30-something-year-old woman, and she looks like she's 12 years old. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I haven't seen her, but yeah, that's her. I mean, she was very thin. She didn't have much, meat on her. And so I just go in my bedroom because I don't want to be part of it. And they come and they take her out, and that was it. I never saw her again. I basically what I heard was that she had threatened to kill herself. And to be honest, from the little experience I had with her, I'm not surprised. I could believe it. Hopefully she got the help she needed. I never heard from her again. As far as I know, I don't know whatever happened. Yes, it was AOC. I kind of feel bad because I don't know, but she needed help, and I'm glad I said something, because I wouldn't have known that she was even on my side. I don't usually go out on the balcony. I would probably never have known she was out there. And God knows how long she would have stayed there. I don't know. So, yeah. So, I don't know how we got on that story. Kronos' Bird of Prey, please continue to rant. Shromore says the Afghan and Iraq wars would probably kept it in the news. Surely that was part of it. The stuff going on in Congress. Everything. TV shows, everything. Everything was keeping it in the news. Aaron Mathers' Bird of Prey, I felt the support for family should come from community and church, not the government. It's just my opinion as a Christian, though. I understand, Aaron. I do believe that a lot of places did do their own support, too, in addition to the government. Aaron says, Roxal, there are plenty of other ways the government has failed and people died. I think Bird of Prey is right. Roxal says, you give the families of 9/11 survivors money because the federal government failed their families by letting the terrorists on the planes. I don't know. And now this is going to be really unpopular. Maybe I could see the argument for that for the people on the planes and the people in the Twin Towers. But the Pentagon, was a valid military target. I hate to say it, but the Pentagon was a military target, not a civilian target. It's still a tragedy, and it's just as sad those people died. Those people didn't think they were going to die that day, but they were working in a military building, okay? That was a military target. And there's a big difference between attacking the Pentagon and attacking civilian buildings in downtown Manhattan. Agner says, if you're an engineer that uses Kurogan logic, Bird. Tiki of Doom agreed with something I said earlier, not with that. We got ways to go. Godspeed says, Bird of Prey, look at World War II and World War I. How long before they stopped the yearly services? I have no idea. Aaron Matthews says, Bird of Prey, I feel like people try to use different tragedies as cash grab. Again, I agree with helping support the victims of any tragedy, just not with government money. It should be church and community. But, Aaron, I guess the devil's advocate would say, What if a person wasn't involved with the church or wasn't involved with the community? I mean, they're not required to go to a church. They're not even required to be involved in the community. Maybe they're using all their free time to take care of a sick family member, and they don't have time for church, and they don't have time to be involved in the community.
Or maybe the sick family member can't get out of the house.
I understand. So I'm just saying, you don't know, maybe they have good reason not to be in with anything else. It doesn't make their deaths any less tragic. And I understand. I do agree with you for the most part. So it's just, I play devil's advocate even against myself. I do it all the time. I have to. It's the only way to stay on top of your game. So, in my apartment at the time, now, okay, September 2001, I was probably the thinnest and healthiest I had ever been. I don't know how much I weighed. I didn't have a scale. I didn't weigh myself. But I was down to buying clothes in regular stores, okay? My entire life, I was only buying clothes at big and tall shops, okay? Somewhere, like the year or two before, I started to be able to buy my clothes at the places everybody would buy their clothes at. There was a big moment for me, okay? Because I was overweight as a kid, and then I got overweight later on. But there was a few years there where I was not overweight, and certainly not overly overweight, if I was overweight at all. I could cross my legs, okay? There was a few years I could cross my legs. I went 18, 20 years without ever crossing my legs, and I didn't understand why the hell would people even cross their legs. It didn't seem natural to me. It was physically impossible for me to cross my legs. There was a few years there where, I finally got the power. I was able to cross my legs. It was amazing. I had the power, the strength to lift myself up over a fence or over like a 4-foot landing. I could push my hands down, and I had the power to lift my body up and come up. Now, everybody might say, oh my God, what do you mean? I do that all the time. I've been doing that since I was 6 years old. Well, maybe you have. Okay, I couldn't do that, right? In high school, I was probably 400 pounds. Okay, I couldn't do that. I was 365 before I got sick. Okay, and looking at the pictures, I was heavier in high school than I was before I got sick. I think. Whatever it was heavy. So I couldn't do these things. There was a few good years I could do this stuff. Okay, I was walking. I'd got a weight set from my apartment. I was using it like every day. It was like one of those gyms you get, and you do the pushes, the arm things, the curls, whatever the hell, the legs. And it was set up in my apartment. And behind it was the balcony, and in the big distance was Manhattan. After 9/11, I stopped. I stopped caring. I stopped exercising. And slowly but surely, I stopped caring what I ate. It took years, but I slowly gained the weight back. And when I got sick, I was over 360 pounds. Probably contributed to it, since it was probably triglycerides that were the cause of the pancreatitis. Now, no matter what I weighed, there's no scientific reason that the triglycerides should have been what they were. There's plenty of overweight people in the world where triglycerides are 300 or 400, not 5,000. Okay, that is an absurdly high number. So there's something else going on beyond just bad diet. But emotionally it hit me. It was a profound change And like, that was the day when I started realizing, and maybe people realize this at younger ages, and maybe some people don't realize this till they're way older, but that was the day I realized that, hey, coming home and waking up the next day is no longer a guarantee. It's no longer a certainty. And that was the day that after that I stopped setting my alarm before I left for work. Because I don't set my alarm until I get home that night after that. Because what if, God forbid, I don't come home? I don't want my neighbor, you know, getting annoyed by my alarm going off for an hour. And calling the superintendent and them coming into my apartment and not knowing why I'm not there. You know, I just don't want that happening. So after that, I only set the alarm when I actually got home, which, to be honest, proved to be pretty useful because, you know, I started realizing, hey, there's other reasons that are good reasons why I might not make it home that night. But at the time, I was only thinking, you know, bad reasons. Yeah, big change in outlook on life. Godspeed, says Berta Pray. I saw a 12-year-old talking about her grandfather in 9/11, and she cried she wasn't even born. Yeah, Godspeed. That's exactly it. Yeah, that bothered Mama Pray too. We were watching. They have these kids who weren't even sperm yet. You know, years later they were born, and they're crying over grandparents they never ever knew. I'm sorry. I don't even cry. I cry. My grandfather died when I was 14. Something like that. Around that age. And I tear up when I think about him. I do. It's sad. But my mother's parents, both died before I was born. I get sad when I think about never having a chance to know them. And I get sad thinking about Mama Pray losing her mom when she was so young, and her dad, you know, relatively young. Before you got married?
Yes.
Yeah. 6 months before she got married to Dad O'Pray. Her father passed away. So I get sad thinking about what she felt because of that stuff. But I don't cry about grandparents I never knew. My great-grandmother was alive on my dad's side. On my mother's side?
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandmother's mother on my dad's side was still alive when I was born, but died before my sister was born. So maybe like a year. She lived a year after I was born. I don't cry over her. I'm sad. Yeah, I would have loved to know the moment, of course. But I'm not going to cry over her. And I mean, I don't think these kids were acting. I think they were actually made to feel like, holy shit, it is so terrible that you don't know your grandparents. Well, you know what, kids? I'm sorry to say it, a lot of people don't know their grandparents. A lot of people don't know their freaking parents. Don't go on TV crying. I think at this point, I think it's more for freaking ratings than anything else. You're taking advantage of people. Aaron Matthew is wowing. Yeah, no, it's true. We saw it. Carlos says, war is tragic on both sides. Innocent people are affected and hurt or even killed. I would hope that in modern time, we could find a way to work together and make peace. I agree. Wesley says, what is Bird talking about? I'm so lost. We're still talking about 9/11, Wes. So many things. Godspeed says, Bird, pray tell Mom I'm sorry for your family's losses. She says, thank you. Aaron Matthews says, Bird, pray if family decides to have a remembrance for 9/11 lost lives, I think it should be a private affair. Yes. That's for the family at this point. Godspeed says, Bird, pray I agree with Mama Pray. Not only, but also people covered in dust got sick as well. Yes. People got covered in dust. And it doesn't matter where you live. South of Canal Street is bullshit. DJ says, okay, I'm back. Bird is in conspiracy. No, there's no conspiracy theories here. Actress says, the soot makes Bird shed a tear. Thomas is vertebrae. Can you see the buildings in Manhattan from your house? Not from my house, but from my apartment building, which was, again, 6, technically 7 stories up, I could. What? Yeah, and from Canarsie, Brooklyn, you could see the World. You could see the Twin Towers. Admiral Saval says, yo, Bird, welcome, Admiral Saval. I know I'm way, way behind. 40 minutes. Surf Trek says, Bird of Prey, I think the reason the families got large settlement is because the people in the World Trade Center were told to stay put at the time by authorities. Yeah. There are a lot. Yeah, I know the people who got the money, they had to sign away their rights to sue, I believe. So, also, and this doesn't get reported, but the people on the airplanes, box cutters were legal, okay? Box cutters, you were allowed to bring a box cutter on an airplane. So, you can't say that the, airplane people due diligence because they let box cutters on board. That was acceptable at the time. But what never gets reported is that they also had like a mace or a tear gas or some type of pepper spray, some type of gas that was able to keep people away. And that totally would not have been allowed on the plane pre 9/11 or post 9/11. So somebody did drop the ball in security, if nothing else, not allowing this type of spray on the planes. And they had masks. The terrorists had some type of mask they could use to breathe. I know I heard reports of this, reliable reports of this from at least one of the planes. So I think, and I don't think it gets reported because I don't think they want to worry about the, financial responsibility from that. Guys, give me 1 minute. I got a Jaloja. I'll be right back. Wrong button.
There really is a Kentucky Fried Chicken school.
Yep, today we're making the Colonel's original recipe.
What have you learned?
Fresh chicken makes the best chicken.
And that we use 11 herbs and spices.
Oh, but that's the Colonel's secret. And special pressure cooking.
So it's always tender and juicy.
Looks like you've learned to make great chicken.
Only way to serve our customers right.
It's so nice to feel so good about a meal, so good about Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I've been playing daughter roles for so long that people forget I'm grown up with kids of my own. I'm certainly grown up enough to know that soap can dry out your face, so I wash with Noxzema skin cream every day. Noxzema makes my face feel really clean. It doesn't dry, puts moisture in, makes my skin feel soft, younger looking. I've been washing with Noxzema for a long time now, and, well, so far so good.
Good skin starts with Noxzema every day. Greaseless, medicated Noxzema skin cream.
Kodak introduces the extraordinary Kodamatic trim print instant color film. Unlike the ordinary instant print, the extraordinary trim print lets you lift off the image to capture the color just the way you like it. And now look how slim I am. I slip easily into places the ordinary bulky instant doesn't fit. So you can keep me in style here in your album with your regular pictures. You can trim me. Watch it. And I'm so thin you can put me where you couldn't put an ordinary instant picture. You can show me off. You can do all kinds of things with me that you can't do with an ordinary instant picture. Here I am, with the new Kodamatic trim print instant color film.
Anyone can do extraordinary things, but he didn't tell you trim print is only for Kodamatic instant cameras.
He didn't tell me it's only from Kodak.
What?
He didn't tell him it was only from Kodak.
Extraordinary.
Thank you.
Trim print, the extraordinary new instant color film from Kodak.
And we're back with that Kodak, and Kodak, what, Kodak? No, I know Kodak, but they called it something else. Kodiak instant camera film or something. Go get it. It's in stores now. Wesley says, "Where's Darren Wagner? He would bring the conspiracy theories." I don't think Darren likes me. I don't know. I watched one of his videos and I asked him a question about flat Earth, and I apologized, saying I'm sorry, but I had to stop watching it when he suggested that the Challenger astronauts were fake, that they never died, they never existed, or whatever. And I was like, I'm sorry, I had to stop watching your video here, and I think that's when he stopped coming. Hopefully he still does come, and I just missed him. But listen, if that's what he feels, that's what he feels. I liked him. I mean, I didn't agree with him, but I liked him. Surf Tectonics is the reason. Okay, I read that. Yeah. And I'll be honest, if the authorities told me to stay in place, I would have been like, F you. Gone. Aaron Matthews is Bird of Prey, Surf Tectonics. I think mistakes were made, but no one can expect humans to be perfect and not make mistakes. Absolutely. Shromor says Bird of Prey. Remember after the scare after Chernobyl, we were kept inside for weeks. We were told there might be fallout in Ireland when it rained. Oh, anytime it rained. Then our government came out and said nothing to worry about. Yeah. Thomas Potts is Bird of Prey. My city was dirty from all the steel mills and almost closed in the 70s. The air is still polluted. Wow, that's some pollution. Admiral Saval says, what's your health status, Bird of Prey? What did Dr. McCoy say when he was on trial? Well, worse than him. No, my health status, Admiral, is mostly unchanged. I am not able to stand or walk. I live most of the day in the hospital bed. On nice days, I try to get outside in the wheelchair when the wheelchair is working. And Sassy O'Prey Sassy comes around and says hello every so often. Having minor medical issues. Have some antibiotics, I think, that came today. But nothing I need to get into, and nothing I haven't had before. Thank you for your concern, Admiral. Aaron Matthews says, Bird of Prey, Chernobyl is a farce. They got so much crap scientifically wrong. Having a degree in environmental science, I can't stand that tripe. It's just drama, drama, drama. Aaron Matthew, okay, I heard differently, but I believe you. Admiral Saval says, how old are you? 40, right? I'll be honest. I'm at that age where you're still not 100% sure. I'm 40 until November 13th. Then I'm 41. Just in case you didn't know. Shromore says there were rumors of irradiated sheep in the hills, and Ireland is on the far west of Europe. Bird is around 40, says DJ. Yes. Oh, hi, Sassy. Aaron Matthews says, I think flying the flag for fallen firefighters, police, and heroes is a good way of remembrance. I think so, too. I was one of those few people who flew the flag before 9/11. Okay, I had the flag. If you came into my apartment, you would have seen a big flag on my bedroom door. And after 9/11, I put the flag out on the balcony. And I remember talking with Mama Prey, and she was concerned. She sounded like she was actually worried that because I was flying the flag on my balcony, that a terrorist would see it and purposely fly a plane into my building. Do you remember that conversation?
Yes.
Was that what you were concerned about?
Yes.
That is what she was. She thought I would be targeted in some way for flying the flag on my balcony. And if I was, I wouldn't have cared. I'll be honest, the days after 9/11, we had so much hyper-patriotism, I was scared a little. Me and a friend, we were driving down Bell Boulevard, which is the major commerce avenue over here. And there was like an impromptu get-together of people around the train station. And they were blocking the streets, and they were waving flags, and they were yelling, chanting, USA, USA. And like we're coming down in my Jeep, and everybody's honking their horns and stuff in support. And I'm like cautiously supporting. I mean, don't get me wrong, I support, but I don't think we needed to go jumping in the streets to show our support. I'd show my support by, keep going about my day and buying things like a good American. But people were like, yeah, honk, honk, honk. I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, this is not good. This is not good. But hey, it's what people had to get out of their system. And then it was so sad because after a week or two, even a month, all those little flags everybody bought for their cars started falling off, and you couldn't drive down the highway for a mile without seeing a busted up old little American flag in the middle of the highway or on the side of the highway. It was more upsetting. Air Matters' Bird of Prey, I think those with the flags chanting needed a way to vent emotions they couldn't completely understand. Yeah, I agree. Sean Wars' Bird of Prey, I just started a new job 2 weeks before 9/11. I'm still there 18 years later. We knew it was bin Laden, that the U.S. would either go to war with Afghanistan or Iraq, just not the order. Yeah, I mean, apparently people in the know knew it was bin Laden long before I did. I had no idea who it was for the first day until I started hearing people talk about it. And, yeah, well, I'm not going to get into the politics. Cinnabon says, Bird of Prey, the Architect series of Lego kits. Stole your idea, you should sue. No, I saw it. Mine is much better. Mine is much better than the Architect set. DJ says, Bird loves those cuckoo women. Wesley says, I thought for sure there was a World Trade Center logo set. There might be, but there wasn't at the time. I promise you that. Tia Doom says, the story sounds like the start of a porn. Stromworth says, Thomas Bird of Prey could have stopped AOC before she became a monster. AOC, what was AOC? 14 years old when 9/11 happened? If that? Alexa, how old is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? I'm getting the age of the city of Alexandria. Ocasio. Alexa, how old is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? 29 years old. Minus 18. 11. Is that right? 29. Yeah, 11 years old. Jesus Christ. 11 years old. She can't understand. DJ says, a basement is underground, so it only counts as 6 floors. No, it was underground in the front of the building, but by around back you went down a level, so it was exposed in the back of the building, but it was underground in the front of the building. Thomas is 29 watching with 25 likes. Thank you guys so much for all your likes and everything. Where are we? DJ says, you traumatized her. That's why she was on your balcony. Why would I have traumatized her? And there's Wesley saying, AOC is only 29 now. The story was a while ago. Yeah, this story was in like 2002 or 2003, probably. Maybe 2004 at the latest. Thomas says she saw Bird of Prey's trick undies. Yeah. No, Thomas is Spider-Man underoos. Wesley says Bird of Prey was going to say something, but then realized it could have been taken as mean. Well, that doesn't stop anybody else, Wes. Wesley says, it's over 5,000. I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about. DJ says, Mamo Pray, wash his mouth out with dish soap. Is Bird high? No, I wasn't high. Mike Richards wants Karogan fried alpaca. Oh, because it was a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. Yes. People miss Kodak because they were watching commercials. Wesley says, Bird of Prey, let's throw your birthday party on November 14th. Why the 14th? Aaron Mathers says, Bird of Prey, I think those with flags chanting. Yes, I read that. Needed a way to vent emotionally that they couldn't understand. I agree. Buy things like a good American, says Wes. Hector says, buy. Wes says, I was in high school back then. All the jocks wanted to sign up for the military that year. You know, that was another thing Mamo Pray 5 was afraid of. She thought I was going to sign up for the military. You remember that one? Yeah. I told her she didn't have to worry. While as much as I was, patriotic, I could tell that my talents would not have been in the best use of the military. Full respect to everybody who did join, but I knew it wasn't for me. I would not have been able to deal with that. Not the combat. I mean, just drill sergeants and stuff like that. That wouldn't go over well. Give me a gun and send me out on my own. Yeah, I'll do that. But that they don't let you do that for some reason. Agri says, and still doesn't know how to pronounce. Well, Alexa understood it, so it's good enough. Cancel. Thomas's Bird of Prey has so many liberal harem he can't remember their names. Aaron Matthews says, oh snap, Bird just schooled you on New York basements. Bam. DJ says, oop, forgot the far back for Bird had Pelosi as a neighbor. It could have been Pelosi, though I think she's probably a little younger than Pelosi. DJ says, no, Aaron, he never said if it was front or back, lol. Agnes says, imagine Bird as a combat pilot. Oh my God, for space engineers. The first time playing on Anti-Tracker server, I was flying the Fillmore, and I don't know, I was in the air for 30 seconds. Spam! Right into a mountain. Exploded into pieces. Oh, it was terrible. That was sad. Yeah, I don't think I'd be a great combat pilot. Now, if they need a Jeep driver on the ground... Sassy, you want to be a combat pilot? Yes. She's going to bomb the squirrels. But if they needed a Jeep driver who could get around, craters and stuff, then I'm your guy. Imagine Bird as a tank driver. Yes, we've seen how he drives those things. Do we get a Mama Prey story? You want to tell your 9/11? Yeah, it's a short one, but she'll tell. Give her a second. Okay, you know what? I will shut off the camera so you can come to the microphone. There you go. Okay, no, it's not on.
Okay. Hi, guys. My 9/11 story is a pretty short one. If you were here before when Joe mentioned Sister O'Prey's car wasn't working, so she took mine. So I wasn't really planning on going anywhere. I got up before any of this happened, and Sister O'Prey took the car and she went to work. And I was just walking past, Dad O'Prey was watching TV, and I was walking past the room, and he said, a plane just hit the World Trade Center. I thought he was imagining it, I really did. Not that he imagined things like that, but I figured he got it wrong. And I walked in to the room, and I said, oh my goodness. And the first thing I did, was called Birdo Prey. And that's when he told you where he went in his office. And I turned back around just in time to see the second plane hit. So I guess for a couple of hours we were just glued to the TV. And Sister Prey called. I told her where to find the maps in my car. And a little later in the day, Dad O'Prey belonged to a boat club that was, I don't know what, half a mile from the house where we lived, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like a straight run. And he was going to the boat club, and I was going with him. I was going to take his car. So as we passed this one block that looked directly at the World Trade Center, you could see the smoke coming up, and it was blowing right our way, even though we were a borough away. And by the time we just got 2 more blocks over to his boat club, the water was just covered in ash, and the boats were covered in ash. It was, I don't know. I think I just went back and spent the rest of the day glued to the TV. It did affect me, though. It really did. I was never one to like tall buildings. I prefer being in a place like Arizona at the time had, you know, basically anything you needed on the first or second floor, and a lot of room around it. But I had gone to the World Trade Center, to Windows of the World, once. Against my will. But
Sassy girl.
The view, of course, was unbelievable. And we went up there for dinner. I guess, I don't know, a couple of years before, you know, this happened, before 9/11. And we were going with like 6 people for dinner, and everyone else had this great dinner that was quite expensive. I couldn't eat. By the time I got up to the 110th floor or whatever it was, my throat closed up. I just sat there drinking water all night. That was my World Trade Center experience. But it was nice to know it was there, even though I wasn't going to be enjoying it.
We enjoyed the sight of it.
Yes, definitely enjoyed the sight of it. But that day that it came down did change everybody's world. You were a little bit more cautious. You were a lot more cautious. And the whole thing, the city closed, the sassy. Anyway, I still feel bad. I mean, it was terrible. But again, as people brought up, this morning watching it on TV, the memorial, the sight of the children standing there crying just didn't sit right. There was something about it that I started to feel this was commercialized. And I guess Sassy is telling me it's enough, guys. So I'm getting off now. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mama Pray. And thank you, Sassy. No, not thank you, Sassy, but yes, Sassy. Everybody loves you. Don't worry, baby. And you're famous, Sassy. You were in an Anti-Trucker Super Chat.
Oh, really?
Oh, you didn't know she was in the Super Chat? No. She answers the door. When Feces and Lorehead come to the door, she answers the door with a microphone attached to her head. You'll have to watch again. In school, I don't know if it was like 3rd grade or 4th grade, But we did a class trip to the World Trade Center, and I couldn't go up. I didn't mind elevators, but I was deathly afraid of escalators. And apparently, at the time, the only way to get to the observation deck of the World Trade Center was to take an escalator. And I say only way, because they weren't going to let me walk up the stairs, even though obviously there had to be stairs. And there had to be an elevator, now that I think about it, for disabled people. But, you know, that wasn't, nobody said, oh yeah, you can use the elevator. So if I didn't want to get on the escalator, which I wouldn't do, I couldn't go up. So I stayed down. My whole class went up the escalator and then got an elevator and went up to the observation deck. And I stayed down because I was afraid. I don't know if Mama Prey was there.
No, I didn't go on that trip.
Oh, so then some unfortunate parent or teacher had to stay with me. They probably hated me for it. Or maybe they didn't want to go up anyway. I don't know. We just hung out downstairs doing nothing for a couple of hours while the class went up the observation deck. It was a completely stupid trip. And probably one of the reasons I hated the city. Yeah.
To the Statue of Liberty.
Right, yeah. No, we went to the Statue of Liberty, and we didn't go up that either. No. Yeah, but a lot of people didn't go up the Statue of Liberty because you had to walk up the Statue of Liberty. Yeah, that I wasn't going to do either. I'm sorry. Very old French-built statue that has certainly shouldn't have all that many people walking through it. Not my idea of a good time. Love taking pictures of it, but no, not going out. DJ is ringing because Mom will pray, and probably me. Brought up Sister will pray.
Oh, I'm sorry, DJ.
DJ says, I got the Air Force One late in the afternoon, finally flying back to D.C. Oh, I got to see Air Force One late in the afternoon, finally flying back to D.C. Only knew that it was because all the other planes were grounded, and this had 4 fighters escorting it. Yeah, makes sense. DJ says, thank you, Mom will pray. And Aaron Matthew gives a heart and a thumbs up for Sassy. And Aaron Matthew says, I'm getting a vibe that you don't like heights. I do not. I have a problem with heights. And so does Mom will pray. That said, as long as there's a railing, okay, I'm okay. I could go out on a balcony, and if there's a railing, even if I don't touch the railing, I have absolutely no problem going out on the balcony. In fact, I kind of enjoyed it, you know. It was a nice view. Mom will pray, though, is one of her person who won't even go out on the balcony, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. She'd rather just not go out on the balcony at all. In fact, she'd rather not stay high. We would go to hotels, beautiful hotels, and they try to give us rooms on high floors, which are the better rooms. But Mom will probably be like, no, what's the lowest floor you have? And you're like, what? Lowest floor? Really? So yeah, what's the lowest floor you have? They're like, I don't know, 2? Yes, perfect. Because she'd walk. She would never use the hotel elevator. And even when I was in the hospital, she was trying to walk for the longest time. She had to walk. Finally, I mean, she had to break down because I was on the 6th floor. She had to actually use the elevator, but she hated it. So if there's any way she could possibly walk, she'd walk up 4, 5, 6 flights of stairs when she could.
When I worked in the Port of Ed and had to go to the 10th floor meetings.
Right, she would walk up 10 flights. She had to go to meetings that were on the 10th floor in a certain building for her old job, and she would walk up 10 flights of stairs rather than take the elevator. But, so like I said, there are people who are more scared of heights than me. And there are people who have absolutely, like, no scared of heights. Like, there was one person, there's a lot of people, but at my old job, when we were working out of Mr. Frank's, who's the old boss's, California house, he had this infinity pool in his backyard that overlooked the valley of Rancho Santa Fe. And some people could walk right to the edge of the infinity pool on this, 1 foot wide stone that if you went over, it was like an 8-foot drop down the side of a cliff to his driveway. I couldn't. I could maybe get halfway down it was like walking the plank, but there was a pool on one side and trees and a steep drop on the other. So most people could get to the edge, look down, and come back. I was like panicking like hell. I could get halfway down and come back. But there were people like when we went to the Bahamas for a month. One of the people we went with was a woman, and she was scared shitless of a balcony. And we had rooms on the top floor of this particular hotel. It was like the 14th floor. So I went out the first day there. Oh, beautiful view. And she was like, I don't want to come out on the balcony. And she comes out and she's just like standing up against the door to the room, like the sliding glass door. She doesn't want to look down. And it was one of the few times in my life that I said, "Hey, Joe, man up." So I took her and I held her, and she was okay. I was like, "I'll hold you." And I actually took initiative on a woman. Oh my God. And she was actually happy. She could see, and she felt very comfortable as long as I was holding her. And she could see over the balcony and do this stuff. But Jesus Christ, if I had let go, it would have been it. She was not happy about heights. So I can only imagine that although my fear of heights is bad, I've definitely seen people worse. DJ says, "I'm not scared of heights, only scared of falling from them." Yeah. Well, I guess that's it. But it's like your brain, even if my life depended on it, I see people who be rescued using fire ladders, 3 stories up, a high ladder, and they climb backwards out of their burning building window onto a fire truck ladder. Now I can't move, but even when I could move, I'm thinking, holy shit, God forbid this ever happened to me. I literally couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to frickin' climb out onto a 3-story up fire ladder and make my way down the ladder. But you see people do it like it's no frickin' big deal. I'm like, holy shit. Are these people just the luckiest people in the world that they're not afraid of heights? Or what's happening? Because Jesus Christ, if that was it, I'd be like, let me die. Because I can't come out three flights up on a ladder that's freaking moving around like crazy. I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't know how these people do it, but Jesus. Aaron, Bird of Prey, you should make Mamo Prey on a cruise. Oh, you should take Mamo Prey on a cruise and see cruise life.
I did go out on that on the cruise.
Oh, yeah, true. She did go out on the cruise balcony, Mama Prey. We went on one cruise. I think I told you guys about the cruise once. Yeah, she did go out on the cruise balcony. But unfortunately, I don't think I would do too well on a cruise these days. It'd be very hard to get me in a hospital bed into a cruise ship. So there's one more thing I wanted to show you guys. Let's see if the web browser is going to show up. And there it does. Perfect. So this is The Simpsons, and you guys might remember The Simpsons, and I said we'd get back to it. The city of New York versus Homer Simpson. A lot of people say they predicted 9/11 because of this scene, and this was Bart telling because they were at this part in the episode, everybody wanted to go to New York except Homer, and Bart's like, come on, $9 bus tickets, and this was it, $9. Of course, this looks like an 11, but it's obviously just the Twin Towers. And so people say, well, this predicted it. Now, also, that episode, not only does it take place in New York City, a good part of the episode takes place at the Twin Towers, because Homer's car was parked by Barney in the center of the Twin Towers and was receiving tons and tons of parking violations. So, and it was booted. So that's why they went to New York to begin with, to get the car back. And so the towers were featured prominently in the episode. So a lot of people say it's the prediction of 9/11. I don't know. I don't know. Then there was this, which I found out only for the first time today was fake. I honestly went through the last 18 years believing this was just a coincidence. I didn't think it was a conspiracy. I just thought it was a coincidence that if you used the Wingdings font and typed in Q33NY, you would get this. And it is true. If you type in Q33NY, you do get this. But what turned out to be fake is that Q33NY was never the call sign or number of any plane. So Q33NY was just something somebody made up to make this conspiracy to begin with. Q33NY has nothing to do at all with 9/11. But I remember at the time I believed it. I just thought, wow, what a crazy coincidence. Now, this are pictures I took. And you're like, well, what is this? This is the first 9/11 memorial ever created. And where is it? It's outside Las Vegas at Red Rocks. Is it Red Rocks Park or something? It says, this memorial is dedicated to the thousands of innocents who lost their lives during the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. It also honors those brave men and women who risked their lives in the rescue of others. In their rescue efforts. Friends of Red Rock Canyon, that's where it was, Red Rock Canyon, outside Vegas. Red Rock Canyon Imperative Association, Bureau of Land Management, and Aqua Stone Products worked together to create the nation's first memorial to commemorate this tragic event. This tribute to the victims and heroes was conceived of September 14, 2001, and was formally dedicated on September 29, 2001. So Red Rock Canyon, outside Vegas, became the first place in the country to have a 9/11 memorial. I didn't know it was there. Me and my friends were there at Red Rock Canyon looking around because we'd been to Vegas. And we said, oh, let's check out Red Rock Canyon. And, you know, walking through all the other red rocks, we're like, all of a sudden, there's a 9/11 memorial. So we're like, what the hell's this? And it was actually basically just a rock. And then this stone with various things chiseled into it. The different airlines, the four airlines chiseled into it. The Pentagon, the Twin Towers, and you got a quote here. Over 3,000 innocents died because they didn't know the exact number yet, because it was still so early. World Trade Center, 1973 to September 11, 2001, destroyed by an act of war. And then this was me. This was years later. This was not, obviously, this wasn't September 11th. This was years later, after I'd started putting back on the weight. Yeah. And the shirt is, I'm sorry to Luke, but the shirt I was wearing at the time says F the French. Okay, it has a French flag on the shirt. Yeah, I remember this was a time when we were pretty pissed at the French for not helping as much in Iraq as we thought they could have, and we renamed French fries to Freedom Fries and all those things. was going on. I had F the French. I admit it. I certainly admit it, and I don't feel bad about it. I'll be honest. But I'm glad we worked through. We've worked through that, and I don't think I would have any reason to wear F the French today. Then there was, okay, so a couple more quick stories. Soon, maybe 6 months after 9/11, I'm in California. We're doing a product launch for, I don't remember if this was for the rum I created, the Qapla rum, or for Grey Goose Citron. Now, you see, we originally were going to have the Qapla launch event at Spago in LA, which is Wolfgang Puck's restaurant. And unfortunately, Qapla took a couple of months longer than expected. And I was telling people it wasn't going to be ready, but of course nobody believed me. So they already put all the money and they got all the events and they got the places booked. And they were going to have to do, and Qapla wasn't ready. So I made the suggestion, because Mr. Frank, who's the boss, and one of the vice presidents was there, and I was like, well, listen, Qapla's not going to be ready in time for this party. So they were like looking at me, wasn't happy. I was like, but we're launching Grey Goose Citron. Why not just make it a launch party for Grey Goose Citron? And Mr. Frank was like, yeah. Honestly, you got to picture Mr. Frank like a nice Ferengi. No disrespect to Mr. Frank, but the voice. Like, yeah, that's good. And the vice president was so happy because he didn't give a shit about the rum, to be blunt. He didn't give a shit about the rum, but he loved Grey Goose. Grey Goose was the cash cow. So he actually thanked me. He's like, wow, thank you. You gave us a launch party for an extension of Grey Goose. And so what was supposed to be this giant party for Qapla rum became this giant party for Grey Goose Le Citron. And yes, I know the Grey Goose was French, and yeah, I know. We dealt with it. And so we were all in LA, and we're staying at the W Hotel, which I have to say was probably the nicest hotel in the continental United States. The W Westwood. The nicest hotel in the continental United States I ever stayed at. Second place would be the Pan Pacifica in San Francisco when it existed. I don't think it exists anymore. San Francisco, shithole. I hated the city. Did not like San Francisco one bit. But, beautiful hotel. And the W Westwood, even nicer hotel. But we got into I check in, and the guy's like, oh my God. And he was obviously an alphabet person, and I don't care. I mean, I have nothing against people of different, backgrounds, but understand that was in his voice. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He's like, the only room we have left is 9/11. Like it was a bad word or something. I'm like, oh, it's okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are numbers I don't like, okay? But 9/11 isn't one of them. He's like, it's only 9/11. I was like, that's okay. Really, don't worry about it. So I had to give him my license, before you check in. He's like, oh my God, and you're from New York too. He was apologizing. He was apologizing for giving me room 911. Even more so because I was from New York. Oh my God. And now I think about it, every time I'd fly out to California for months, everybody would say, oh, you're from New York? They would ask about 9/11 all the time. It went on for months, if not years. But this guy, I will always remember. And then I get to the room, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the nicest hotel room I've ever been in. It's got freaking Bose Wave radios. It's got a giant bathroom, separate bathtub and shower. And huge room, beautiful view. The bed, I never felt the bed so comfortable. The sheets, the blankets, they do something with it. It was like freaking amazing. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I don't care what the room number is. It's so great. Then the first time I had to fly to California after 9/11 was, I believe, November. I had gotten back recently, so I had to go back in November. And that after 9/11, everything changed with flights. Obviously, you guys know that. But it used to cost $2,500 to get a round-trip coach ticket from New York City to San Diego on American Airlines before 9/11. After 9/11, $250. And I didn't even fly out of Kennedy for some reason that first time, because one of my friends who lived in San Diego, one of the co-working friends, his girlfriend lived in New Jersey, and she wanted to come out to see him, but she was afraid to fly because of 9/11. So he asked, hey, would you be able to get the same flight with her? Because he knew I was coming out. I was like, what? I was like, you want me to fly your girlfriend to California? He's like, yeah, would you mind? I was like, no, I guess not. What the hell else better do I have to do? I mean, I did have to take a car service from Queens to Staten Island, have his girlfriend picked up, and then have them drive into Newark Airport in New Jersey. And then we flew, and she was a wreck. I mean, honestly, she was trying to use her cell phone during the plane. I was like, no, put the cell phone away. Stop. She's like, I gotta call him. I'm like, no, you don't have to call him. You call him when we stop. That's right. We had a stopover in North Carolina. I always used to fly direct. I was like, oh man, this guy owes me big time for this, and he did. It was fine. I mean, it was something to talk about. Unfortunately, they ended up breaking up, but he ended up marrying his wife. He ended up meeting his wife, who he's still married, and now has numerous kids with. Not at the Grey Goose launch, but a couple of months later, when we finally did the Qapla launch party at Spago in LA, and we did a whole nother repeat of going back to the W Westwood, and it was amazing. It was like repeating the best weekend of my life over again. Only this time we all knew a little bit more about LA than we did before, so we could get into a little bit more trouble. But yeah, by that time he'd actually broken up with the girl, and he'd met this new girl who was working at I don't know if she was working at the hotel or she was working at the restaurant. And they ended up dating for a while. They got married, and they've had like 4 or 5 kids. Moved to Hawaii. She was Hawaiian, but living in LA. So good, you know. He as far as I know, he did pretty well for himself. She was beautiful too. Well. Resolute says that's a perfectly acceptable shirt, even today. Always F the French. Yeah. Aaron Magic says, wow, surprised to see the mods flying F the French. Just because the government made decisions doesn't mean the whole population is awful. I know. It's just, we love to hate the French in America, and the French love to hate us, so it's fine. When we were talking about doing commercials for Grey Goose vodka, and this was shortly, this was in like 2003 or so, 2002, 2003, right when the whole, you know, everybody hates the French thing was boiling up. And one of the ad agencies came in with their commercials, and now Grey Goose is from France. So they were playing up, all the best things in the world come from France, according to their commercial they were showing us. And like 10 seconds into the commercial, the vice president, now later CEO, stops them and says, wait, is this all your commercials going to be about France? And they said, yes. He's like, let me tell you something. We hate the French, and the French hate us. I don't even know what that was supposed to mean. But that was it. He dismissed that agency. And we brought in the next one. And then the next one was the one that we ended up going with, even though I liked the other commercial, the funny commercial, better. But yeah, they did not want to play up the French thing. It was probably good because we had reports of bartenders were turning the Grey Goose bottles around so you couldn't see the French flag, because the Grey Goose had the little French flag on the bottom. And now the bars weren't going to get rid of Grey Goose because it made them too much money, but they were turning the bottles around so nobody would see the flag. That was a serious thing that was actually happening. That wasn't like a conspiracy theory. That was really happening. I'm sure there are really nice French people. I'm just saying it's kind of a humorous thing at this point. I mean, the French were America's first allies, right? They were this country's very first allies in our war of freedom against the tyrant King George and the British Empire. So we should, and they gave us the Statue of Liberty, right? We should remember that. But every so often it is fun to poke some fun at them and say, oh ho ho, your tower, she's not so tall. Or whatever. I mean, oh, we make croissants better in America. I have terrible accents. But no, it's okay. The French can take it. We can take it. We'll be fine. Aaron Matthews says, oh, I know how you're saying, Bird, and I remember freedom fries and all that. Yeah, it was a big thing. There were I think it was 2 or 3 years where like all of America was against the French, which was weird.
I don't remember.
You don't remember the freedom fries and all? It was several years worth of stuff happening. Oh. Yeah. Mamo probably doesn't remember, but it happened.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Well, guys, is there anything you guys want to say? I mean, I've been talking. I always had a lot to talk about. I thank you guys all for listening. I wanted to say a lot of that stuff. I think I've gotten through most of what I was going to say. Yeah. Oh, the lone gunman. That was it. There's one more video. Now I can't play it, although the entire episode, this is a 44-minute episode of The Lone Gunman. The Lone Gunman was a X-Files spin-off. If you remember The Lone Gunmen, they were those kind of hippie, radical computer hackers that helped Mulder from time to time. And they had their spin-off that lasted like half a season, The Lone Gunman, and their pilot episode, which aired 6 months before 9/11, dealt with the plot point that the government, or a faction in the government, was faking a terrorist attack, and they had taken remote control of a passenger plane, and they were going to crash it into the World Trade Center. And they were asking, well, why would you do this? And the guy was like, literally, he's like, there's dozens of tin pot dictators that would love to claim responsibility. And nobody's buying weapons anymore after the Cold War. And so this faction in the government was going to fly a plane into the World Trade Center so that some third world government or something would take responsibility for it. And then we could bomb the shit out of them, and we'd sell bombs. We'd sell smart bombs again. And that was literally the plot of the episode. Now, in the episode, you see the plane flying right at the towers. Of course, in the episode, at the very last second, the plane goes straight vertical and just scratches the tower. And, like, nobody ever knows that it happens, because it happens in the middle of the night. And that's it. That's what, the hackers are able to get control of the plane back to the pilots, so they avoid the crash. But amazing coincidence, and that was the story out there. And so yeah, that's the URL for the Lone Gunman video. If you've never seen that episode before, it's worth taking a look. Do I think it was a faction inside our government that did 9/11? Absolutely not. I think it happened pretty much as the official story goes. And why did Building 7 collapse hours later? I have no idea. I don't. But I'll be honest. Just the fact that it was burning for hours because of wreckage that fell down around it, it makes a hell of a lot more sense than people actually going into the building and planting charges while people were working there or at night. That makes no sense. So yeah, check out The Lone Gunman. It was a pretty decent episode. I'm sorry they canceled the series, to be honest. Oh, and then the very last thing, and I've said this several times before, 9/11 affected Star Trek because 9/11 happened like 3 or 4 weeks before the first episode of Enterprise aired, which means Enterprise's first season and probably second were already written out, and first season was already fully produced, taped and ready to show before 9/11 happened. So Enterprise was a pre-9/11 show airing after 9/11. And a pre-9/11 show, a pre-9/11 world, Enterprise could have worked, where they were going back to exploration, and it was going to be more diplomacy, and yeah, there would be some fighting. But Enterprise, the theme could have worked. After 9/11, though, the entire 99% of the country, and literally like 99% of Congress, I think one person didn't, voted for war. I mean, everybody wanted hell. I mean, there was hell to pay. No, there was nobody, even the couple of people that might have been against it, they weren't there to talk about it. Everybody was in war mood. And we're like, we're going to fight them, we're going to find them, we're going to kill them. And nobody wanted this bullshit exploration story that Enterprise was giving us, because it was created in a different world. It was literally created pre-9/11, a different world than the world that it was broadcast into. And I am certain that played a big part in why ratings were shitty the first season. And I'll be honest, even the second season, they were still going by the old rule book, and they hadn't really moved. Then, the third season, they finally said, well, if people want war, we'll give them a war. Of course, by then, people were finally started to come down from the war. And so, yes, a lot of people still like the third season. A lot of people say the third season is the best. I honestly had stopped watching at that point. I didn't watch Enterprise until a few years later for the first time. I did. I was one of the people who stopped watching Enterprise. I hated it at first. It was only when I watched it later, years later, that I realized how good it was, and that I realized that this was a pre-9/11 TV show airing in a post-9/11 world, and that, I think, was the main reason. Had 9/11 never happened, I think Enterprise gets 7 seasons. I think Enterprise, I don't think we even get the Xindi arc. I don't think they would have went there. They wouldn't have had to. And I think we would have got 7 good seasons of Enterprise. And I think the only thing people would have been complaining about is the theme song. But other than that, I think they would have been fine with the episodes. So 9/11 kind of killed Star Trek too. Another victim. Aaron Matthews says, truth about Enterprise. 99% of TV was all of a sudden terrorists and getting the bad guys. Absolutely. Aaron Matthews says, when you try so hard to make your conspiracy theory make any sense, it's probably hogwash. And Admiral Saval says, how about Band of Brothers being canned after 9/11? Honestly, Admiral Saval, I didn't know it was. I've heard about Band of Brothers. I never watched it. It was on HBO or something. I probably should, but I didn't know about it. I have no idea. I'm sorry. I watch a lot of History Channel stuff on wars and stuff, but I skip most of the September 11th stuff these days. I don't want to rewatch. What?
I missed this morning.
What?
One of the son of one of the victims.
Yeah.
Responded to both the squad and
a son of one of the 9/11 victims responded to the AOC squad. Yeah, you don't have to. We know their names. We know who they are. About
when she said, referring to 9/11, she said, "Well, some people did some things or something like that."
One of them, I think,
did
referred to 9/11 as "some people did some things." Right. I think that was the. I forget her name, but we know which one it is.
Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, Ilhan Omar.
Yeah.
So what did he say?
Okay, he responded or maybe that he really started. The New Jersey resident who lost his mother ripped the Minnesota Congresswoman on Wednesday during the reading of the victims' names at Ground Zero.
What did he say?
I'm trying to get to. Oh, he said, "Today I am here to respond to you exactly who did what for whom." Who sported a shirt with Omar's words that said some people did something. With some applause from the crowd of families and relatives who had gathered at the ceremony. "Madam, objectively speaking, we know who and what was done. There is no uncertainty about that. Why your confusion?" He continued, "On that day, 19 Islamic terrorists, members of Al-Qaeda, killed over 3,000 people and caused billions of dollars of economic damage. Is that clear?"
Okay.
He went on.
So this guy basically went on Omar? Yeah, because Omar described as 9/11 as a day some people did some things, and he was wearing a T-shirt with her quote, and said that no, they were quite certain who did what and to whom, and blah 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 blah. Admiral Saval, I read that. Okay, guys, well, I think that's going to call it a day. I'd say never forget. I don't think those who are alive will forget, but never forget doesn't mean force the kids to start crying over something that happened years before they were born either. If the world's ever going to move on, next generation shouldn't. There's a reason, it's a good thing sometimes that generations later, they don't feel the same hatred that the generations before them do. Otherwise, we would never progress, right? We would, if Americans still felt hatred towards the British for what happened during the Revolutionary War, we would never have become such good allies with Great Britain. And certainly the French and the English, they can have fights over, soccer, but they, for the most part, don't feel that anymore. And it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while, but in time, we will heal. Admiral Saval with another $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Admiral Saval. It says Band of Brothers is an HBO show based on the 101st Airborne Assault Company from the D-Day until the Battle of the Bastogne. Bird of Prey. Thank you so much, Admiral Saval. Yeah, I know it was World War II based. I didn't know the details. So, did they cancel it? Well, I'll look it up. I'll see. I do have HBO, so I will see if when I get a chance to watch it, I'll try. Thank you, Admiral. And Aaron Matthew says, thanks for the great stream, Qapla, Aaron Matthew, and thank you guys all for sticking around. Wow, this was a long one, and yes, Hector, my voice is feeling it. The throat's feeling it. Qapla all, and tomorrow we'll stream sometime, maybe 4 o'clock again. We'll see. Probably a game. Good night, everybody, and I don't have the words. I don't have the words tonight. Remember. Spock. Remember. Thank you all for watching my video. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell icon. Without it, you won't get notifications of new videos. Check out BirdoPrey5.com, the new home of everything Birdo Prey 5 on the web. You can also check out my forum at juot.net. I'm also on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Gab. If you'd like to make a donation, check out paypal.me/BirdoPrey5 or on BirdoPrey5.com. Take care.